Chapter 233. What realm is above the heaven and earth? Flying immortal Guan saw through Yang Jian's thoughts, but didn't explain, and instead waited for his choice. Yang Jian's bones were special and required vast amounts of spiritual energy for body tempering. This process was bound to be painful, so Guan let him choose. No matter how strong the aptitude, without a firm will, the road ahead would be difficult. The blood prison great saint looked at Yang Jian mockingly, wanting to see how the boy would choose. Yang Jian clenched his teeth and said, Yang Jian from investiture of the gods was able to split a mountain to save his mother and fight against the heavens. Since I've renamed myself Yang Jian, I can't disgrace his name. Even if it means my body is shattered to pieces, I will have no regrets. Master, please help me defy destiny. With that, he knelt down suddenly. Gu An's lips curved upwards, and Yang Jian felt a terrifying force envelop him, sending chills down his spine. Before he could think further, he felt the world suddenly shift, causing his internal organs to quiver. The next second, the world returned to normal, and he felt his feet touch the ground. The intense sense of weightlessness made him almost want to vomit. He supported himself on the ground, and instinctively looked up to see his master still sitting on the bull demon king's back. He couldn't help but sigh in relief. He opened his mouth and asked, Master, just now. Before he could finish his sentence, a sea breeze blew, instantly clearing his mind. He stood up and turned around, dumbfounded by what he saw. What did he see? The sea. How is that possible? Yang Jian looked towards the vast ocean in front of him, utterly stunned. Though he had never seen the ocean, he had heard old stories saying it was larger than a lake, boundless, like another world. The blood prison great saint had felt the limitless freedom step before, but each time it left him astonished. This divine skill was truly unbelievable. Without any warning, it was so fast that even he, a Mahayana realm cultivator, couldn't react. Guan dismounted from the bull and walked towards the island's interior, saying, Follow me. Yang Jian snapped out of his stupor and quickly followed Guan. The blood prison great saint also followed, curious about how Guan planned to help Yang Jian defy destiny. Could such a mediocre talent truly transform into a favored son of heaven? He was filled with doubt. Yang Jian's feelings were complex, a mix of excitement and trepidation. Just from that earlier display, he could tell that his master was definitely not a core formation realm cultivator. In other words, his master's words were true. He could defy destiny, but he would have to face bone-crushing pain. The mere thought of it made his legs tremble. Guan noticed Yang Jian's state, but didn't offer any comfort because Yang Jian would have to face it eventually. After walking into the forest, Yang Jian's attention was diverted. He found the spiritual energy here incredibly abundant, and the creatures on the island seemed unusual. He saw a blue-furred rabbit as fast as lightning. There were also snakes resembling white jade, spiders like gemstones, and long creatures hovering in midair like sea dragons. All these new sights stimulated his senses. After walking for an hour, Guan finally stopped at a lakeside deep within the forest. He stood by the lake, took out a great cauldron, and started a fire. Yang Jian watched as Guan pointed with his right hand, shooting out a blue flame, feeling an even deeper sense of awe. Master, what realm are you in? Yang Jian braved himself to ask. Guan casually replied, Loose immortal realm. What is a loose immortal? Qi cultivation, foundation establishment, core formation, nascent soul, divinity transformation, void crossing, unification, mystic heart, Mahayana. These are the 9 ranks of the mortal realm. Beyond that is the immortal path realm. Nirvana is the first step on the immortal path, and loose immortal is the second step. Guan explained, and Yang Jian gasped in shock. The blood prison great saint also learned about the immortal path realm for the first time. Was his master really only 2 major realms above him? The blood prison great saint suspected Guan was hiding something. Fortunately, Yang Jian, the innocent one, asked the question he wanted to ask. What realm is above loose immortal? That is something you will have to seek out yourself in the future. Guan answered. While he intended to reveal part of his strength, he couldn't fully expose himself. There always had to be some reserve. He had recently been contemplating breaking through to a higher realm. In case a world-destroying sea tide erupted, He feared the heaven and earth flying immortal technique wouldn't suffice. He wasn't too worried, though. If the mortal world were ever submerged, he could escape to outer heaven or open a grotto heaven under the sea, bringing those close to him into a minor heaven and earth of his own creation. Yang Jian continued to inquire about the differences between the various realms, and Guan patiently answered, gradually emboldening Yang Jian. He suddenly felt that his master wasn't as terrifying as he had initially thought, and was actually quite gentle. In reality, Guan treated all his disciples gently, including him, but his desire to depend on Guan brought inevitable pressure. After Guan had finished preparing the medicinal herbs, he instructed Yang Jian to enter the medicine cauldron. Yang Jian asked if he needed to undress, and Guan replied that it wasn't necessary. Ordinary robes couldn't block spiritual energy. Yang Jian sat inside the medicine cauldron, extremely nervous, clutching the corners of his robe tightly, with cold sweat the size of beans dripping from his forehead. The blood prison great saint stood up, placing his hooves on the edge of the medicine cauldron, and said, "Boy, the path of immortal cultivation is arduous. Many times, you just need to think about holding on a little longer, just a little longer, and the pain you're enduring will soon pass." Yang Jian took a deep breath, looked at the blood prison great saint, and asked, "Senior Niu, may I ask what realm you are in?" Since his master was a loose immortal, the bull demon king, as his master's mount, must be incredibly strong. Otherwise, why would his master only bring him along? The blood prison great saint looked at Guan, saw him nod, then turned back, smiling proudly and said, "I am at the Mahayana realm's 8th floor, and am not just a bull demon. I am the blood prison great saint who ascended from the lower realm." He recounted his glorious history endlessly, leaving Yang Jian with his mouth agape. The Mahayana realm's 8th floor. He knew that the supreme sect had only 2 Mahayana realm cultivators in name. Who would have thought that the bull raised by his master was at the Mahayana realm? Yang Jian was dazzled by the immense joy, feeling as if he were dreaming. Guan instructed the blood prison great saint to step aside, and the blood prison great saint had no choice but to shut up and move away, showing none of the bearing of a Mahayana realm cultivator. Guan took out an elixir and handed it to Yang Jian, saying, "After consuming this, follow the mental method I described and cultivate your energy. I will guide you in your training. No matter how much it hurts, you must follow my guidance to absorb energy. Otherwise, you will perish, and not even an immortal Daluo can save you." Yang Jian was about to ask what an immortal Daluo was when he saw Guan turn away. He could only toss the elixir into his mouth. The moment it entered, it dissolved, and Yang Jian felt his throat burning, his body suddenly heating up. At this moment, Guan's voice reached his ears using the sound transmission skill, along with a domineering force entering his body, guiding him to absorb nature's spiritual energy. Guan was teaching the all things form and energy art. The all things form and energy art originated and continually elevated from the energy nurturing skill. It was fundamentally a body tempering technique. Although Guan rarely engaged in close combat, his physique was robust. Furthermore, the all things form and energy art could conceal one's aura, making it perfect for Yang Jian to hide his strength in the future. Guan wasn't worried about Yang Jian revealing the technique, as he himself would inevitably upgrade it further. Yang Jian began absorbing energy following the power within him while keeping his master's mental method in mind. As time passed, the medicinal soup in the cauldron started to boil. Yang Jian's skin turned hot red, but the pain in his skin was insignificant compared to the agony of tearing in his bones and muscles. Pain. Pain beyond imagination. The sensation of thousands of insects gnawing at bones, tearing muscles, couldn't begin to describe this agony. His master's voice constantly echoed in his ears, making him feel less afraid. With his master present, he felt inexplicably reassured. Just like the blood prison great saint had said, "Hold on a little longer, and soon it would be over." The pain intensified and gradually he began gritting his teeth. His hair fluttered, veins bulged on his face, and his body was drenched, making it hard to distinguish between sweat and medicinal fluid. Crunch. His body suddenly made a hair-raising sound, as if bones were grinding against each other. Even the blood prison great saint couldn't help but shiver. Can he really defy destiny? The blood prison great saint thought in shock. To him, Guan remained the omnipotent immortal. He turned his head, seeing Guan standing by the lake with his back to the medicine cauldron, his calm demeanor earning even more admiration. For Guan, defying destiny seemed like it wasn't a difficult task. Little did the blood prison great saint know. Guan wasn't truly defying destiny, but merely helping Yang Jian restore his true physique. At this moment, Guan was multitasking, guiding Yang Jian's cultivation while using his divine sense to scan the ocean. He was searching for a suitable place for his next breakthrough. I wonder what realm lies beyond heaven and earth flying immortal, Guan thought expectantly. With over 16 million years of lifespan, he felt he should be able to break through. However, he hesitated over whether to enhance his cultivation techniques and divine skills, as elevating them required investing tens of thousands, or even more lifespan years. He feared he might not have enough lifespan left to break through afterward. Ah! Yang Jian suddenly let out a shrill scream, making the blood prison great saint's heart tighten. This seemed more painful than when he had absorbed the true blood of the divine beast. Guan didn't turn back, seemingly unconcerned about Yang Jian. The elixir he had given Yang Jian was extraordinary, worth 100 supreme-grade spirit stones, equivalent to 10,000 top-grade spirit stones, 100 million low-grade spirit stones. It was known that outer sect servant disciples only received 1 low-grade spirit stone per month as stipend. The treatment in Mystic Valley and the Third Medicine Valley was better, but not by much. With this elixir, Yang Jian might even make a direct breakthrough, depending on how much of the medicinal power his physique could absorb. Time passed by second. After a while of screaming, Yang Jian's voice suddenly stopped. The blood prison great saint widened his eyes in shock. Yang Jian slowly rose from the cauldron, still in a meditative posture. His black hair fluttered, skin glowing red. Strangely, he emitted a menacing aura, frightening the blood prison great saint. This feeling was like encountering a nemesis. Rumble. A thundercloud had quietly formed in the sky, brewing a mighty force. What kind of life grid is being altered? This is too overwhelming. The blood prison great saint thought in astonishment. Even with his divine beast blood-enhanced physique, he was intimidated by Yang Jian's presence, indicating how terrifying Yang Jian's physique had become. He turned to look at Guan, who remained unfazed. Seaman. Chapter 234. Only I can decide my disciple's life and death. Rumble. The sound of thunder continued to roar, causing the ocean around the island to rise and fall, with howling winds signaling the approach of a storm. Guan had his back to Yang Jian, his divine sense enveloping the sea area spanning thousands of miles, constantly on guard against any approach by a great cultivator. He wasn't worried about the celestial tribulation Yang Jian was causing, as such tribulations were insignificant over the ocean. Yang Jian's cultivation level was formidable enough that, though terrifying, it was only a threat to cultivators of lower realms. Yang Jian still had his eyes closed, meditating in midair. His robe fluttered wildly as the nature's spiritual energy surged into his mouth and nose. Simultaneously, his pores expelled searing qi, enveloping him and making him appear extremely imposing. His eyebrows were tightly furrowed, enduring unimaginable pain. His entire focus was on his inner being, completely unaware of the outside world, or even that he had floated up into the air. The thunder roared like a heavenly god, oppressively overwhelming. The blood prison great saint lay prone on the ground, his mindset now adjusted and filled with anticipation. He was eager to see what kind of defying fate Yang Jian would create. Bang! A sudden bolt of lightning struck down, hitting Yang Jian. In an instant, his robe was reduced to ashes, and his body turned charred. As the lightning subsided, blood began to seep from his skin, making him look ghastly. Within 3 breaths, he was transformed into a bloodied figure. Guan turned to look at Yang Jian, his gaze remaining calm. The blood prison great saint also remained composed, sensing that Yang Jian's life was not in immediate danger. One bolt of heavenly lightning after another struck down. Guan sharply noticed that these heavenly lightnings contained 5 elements spiritual energy. Could it be that Yang Jian's physique could directly absorb the 5 elements spiritual energy? No wonder such immense spiritual energy was needed to break through the constraints deep within his bone marrow. Too monstrous, thus unaccepted by the heavenly Tao? Gu An's expectations for Yang Jian grew. He wanted to see what kind of transformation Yang Jian would undergo. Yang Jian continued to endure the lightning strikes, his skin and flesh splitting open, blood splattering. Yet his aura didn't weaken. Instead, it brewed an even stronger force. After around 30 minutes, Yang Jian's body was devoid of hair, his skin was completely charred, with white bones faintly visible at the joints. The might of the heavenly lightning reached a new height, causing the blood prison great saint to grow tense, fearing that Yang Jian might suddenly die. At this moment, Guan felt an aura rapidly approaching. It was a Nirvana realm cultivator, not too strong. As long as a loose immortal or higher did not appear, Guan wouldn't need to forcibly take Yang Jian away. Soon, a figure flew into the island, traversed the forest, and quickly landed by the lake. Without looking at Guan or the blood prison great saint, his gaze fixed on Yang Jian, filled with astonishment. Immortal-seeking Taoist, Nirvana Realm 9 layers. 20489/25000/300000. Immortal-seeking Taoist? This name seemed familiar. Guan suddenly remembered that Wuxin mentioned being taught the Taoist expansion skill by a divine monk who called himself Immortal-seeking Taoist. He didn't expect this person to be a Nirvana realm existence. In other words, during his weaker days, there was a Nirvana realm great cultivator in the Tri-3 halls. If he had recklessly seized lifespans and grown rapidly, he could have very likely perished at the hands of a Nirvana realm great cultivator. This made him feel fortunate for having kept a low profile. Though named a Taoist, Immortal-seeking Taoist looked more like a monk, clad in a dark yellow monk robe and cassock, with a youthful and handsome face. Guan remained silent, but the blood prison great saint wasn't pleased. He grumbled, "Hey smelly monk, who let you in? You come in without a greeting?" Since deciding to be Gu An's exclusive mount, his mindset had shifted. The monk could disrespect him, but he must respect his master. Immortal-seeking Taoist glanced at the blood prison great saint, smiled, then looked at Guan, cupping his fists in salute. "This humble Taoist is Immortal-seeking Taoist. May I know the honored name of Taoist friend, and what is your relationship with this person?" Guan calmly replied, "My name is Meng Lang, he is my disciple." Immortal-seeking Taoist noted that Gu An's aura only indicated a core formation realm cultivation level, but he didn't believe it, growing even more curious. Being unable to discern the other's true cultivation meant the other was likely far superior to him. He smiled. "Taoist friend Meng, your disciple is extraordinary. His heavenly destiny exceeds the current world's limits. It should have been buried, but you discovered it. This world will change because of him." Guan asked, "Oh, did I make a mistake?" "Not at all. The affairs of heaven and earth are about change. The old gives way to the new, and everything changes daily. There's no right or wrong." Immortal-seeking Taoist smiled, his gaze then returning to Yang Jian, filled with wonder. Guan inquired, "Taoist friend, do you know what his physique is?" Immortal-seeking Taoist pondered. This humble Taoist finds it hard to judge. He has the mysteries of the ancient 5 elements treasure body, and the fierce qi and blood of the primeval tyrant body. 5 elements treasure body. Guan had once possessed the 5 elements treasure body, but had ascended to an innate Taoist body, transforming further into his current mystic holy body. Are the 5 elements treasure body and primeval tyrant body powerful? The blood prison great saint asked, making Guan quite satisfied with him. Good, he has potential. If Guan asked this himself, it would have lessened his status. Immortal-seeking Taoist smiled at the blood prison great saint, saying, "Naturally, in ancient times, talent wasn't solely determined by spirit root attribute and qualification. Physique also played a major role. Those with treasure bodies, regardless of spirit root qualification, ultimately became legendary rulers of the immortal path." He began to recount the ancient treasure bodies he knew about. The exquisite treasure body, a physique of great comprehension, impervious to evil influences. The flame primordial treasure body, a body like blazing sun, which could transform into a glorious sun at its peak. the defying blood treasure body, where near-death situations trigger immense potential, possibly leading to permanent power increases. And so on. Immortal-seeking Taoist described 8 types of treasure bodies, astonishing both Guan and the blood prison great saint. From his tales, ancient immortal paths seemed stronger than today's, with various treasure bodies thriving, myriad races standing tall, and even reincarnation existing, allowing the mighty to seek immortal opportunities through rebirth. Taoist friend, I hope today's events remain between us, Guan said. Immortal-seeking Taoist had shown no hostility and shared much ancient lore, which spoke well of him, though not necessarily proving him absolutely good, but certainly not bad at the moment. Immortal-seeking Taoist nodded. Rest assured, this humble Taoist doesn't wish to see such a promising figure fall either. Bang! Suddenly, Yang Jian erupted with a terrifying force, shaking the forest and causing ripples in the nearby lake. The thunderclouds emitted a red glow. A terrifying red lightning bolt struck Yang Jian, making him scream in agony. Mystic dark heavenly tribulation. Immortal-seeking Taoist frowned, stating each word slowly. Mystic dark heavenly tribulation? Guan remembered this name. It was the tribulation he faced when breaking through to the void-crossing realm in his cultivating visions. This tribulation is odd, beyond what his cultivation should attract. It's a certain death tribulation. The blood prison great saint shouted in horror. This tribulation surpassed even his unification realm tribulation in intensity. He sensed the mystic dark heavenly tribulation still brewing, with the true horror yet to come. Immortal-seeking Taoist took a deep breath and said, Indeed, a certain death tribulation. It seems the heavens will not tolerate him. Guan thought of An Hao, who also had a 9,999-year lifespan, yet faced less intense tribulations. Could it mean that even within the same 9,999-year limit, talent varied? This number marked a human limit, but talent had no bounds. Immortal-seeking Taoist said to Guan, the mystic dark heavenly tribulation is a tribulation of karma, not to be forcibly dispersed. Intervening would stain you with karma, leading to facing the same, or even stronger, tribulation yourself during a breakthrough. His face expressed deep regret. What a pity for such a promising seedling. Guan looked at Yang Jian, and remained silent. Karma from the heavenly tribulation? Sorry, he didn't undergo tribulations, and he had faced this kind of tribulation in his cultivating visions, enduring it without assistance. He had made it through. Another bolt of lightning fell, this time even more terrifying. Guan's eyes sharpened, and he suddenly waved his sleeve. His long sleeve swept, directly dispersing the thunderclouds, allowing sunlight to shine down on Yang Jian. The tribulation dissolved instantly. Immortal-seeking Taoist's eyes widened in disbelief as he turned his head to look at Guan, who remained indifferent, serene. The blood prison great saint turned as well, wanting to speak but holding back. Immortal-seeking Taoist felt the dissipating aura, and his eyes grew complicated. He sighed. Taoist friend, why did you go to such lengths? Guan looked at the blood-soaked Yang Jian and said, Immortal cultivation is about enduring tribulations. So what if it's a different tribulation? Only I determine my disciple's life and death. How domineering! The blood prison great saint felt his blood boil. Following such a person was indeed a blessing. Immortal-seeking Taoist looked at Guan, opened his mouth, but ultimately said nothing. He raised his hand in salute, showing respect. Then they both waited for Yang Jian to awaken. They could feel Yang Jian's qi blood rapidly strengthening. With the tribulation gone, ample spiritual energy rushed towards him, causing a profound transformation in his bones and marrow. After a long time, Immortal-seeking Taoist asked Guan, May I ask where Taoist friend hails from? From the West. The West? Have you heard of Immortal-seeking Island? Guan glimpsed at Immortal-seeking Taoist, curiously inquiring. Immortal-seeking Island, Immortal-seeking Taoist, could there be a connection? Immortal-seeking Taoist smiled. So, Taoist friend knows Immortal-seeking Island. To be honest, I founded the island long ago, later passing it to my disciple. The fame it enjoys now is all thanks to him, not myself. The island master of Immortal-seeking Island was a wandering immortal. while a mortal-seeking Taoist was merely a nirvana realm cultivator. Indeed, one shouldn't judge solely by cultivation level. Background and connections also counted as strength. Guan reflected on this, and then engaged in polite conversation with a mortal-seeking Taoist. It wasn't until early the next morning that Yang Jian's transformation concluded. He leaped into the lake, washed his body, and then stepped ashore. Under the sunlight, he had grown a few inches taller, his skin fair and his muscles well-defined, exuding immense strength from merely looking at his upper body. Chapter 235 Post-Holiday Breakthrough. Looking at Yang Jian, who was now a completely different person, Guan smiled. Yang Jian had reached the 5th layer of the Foundation Establishment realm in one go. His chi blood was even stronger than that of the Foundation Establishment realm, proving that Guan's elixirs and medicinal herbs had not been wasted. Of course, Yang Jian's physique surely still held more mysteries that needed to be uncovered through future cultivation. Guan took out a blue robe and tossed it to Yang Jian, who hurriedly put it on. The immortal-seeking Taoist quickly walked up to Yang Jian and carefully looked him over. The more he looked, the happier he became, as if staring at a rare treasure, making Yang Jian feel very uncomfortable. "Young friend, your master is exceedingly good to you. Do you know what kind of tribulation you just went through?" the immortal-seeking Taoist said. Upon hearing this, Yang Jian couldn't help but ask what kind of heavenly tribulation it was. Then, the immortal-seeking Taoist began to explain the mystic dark heavenly tribulation, and told him that it was Guan who had dispelled the tribulation, bearing great heavenly tribulation consequences as a result. Upon hearing this, Yang Jian's face changed dramatically. He hurriedly bypassed the immortal-seeking Taoist and ran to Guan, kneeling before him. "Master, your disciple is not worthy of your actions. Your disciple let you down." Yang Jian's forehead touched the ground, choking with emotion as he spoke. He felt both moved and guilty in his heart. His master had changed his fate, not only by providing precious elixirs and medicinal herbs, but also by bearing the consequences of the heavenly tribulation. The depth of this kindness was immense. From childhood to adulthood, although he had not suffered hardships and had a happy family, ever since his spirit root was detected, his world had turned dark. Guan not only brought him hope, but also fulfilled that hope. Yang Jian knew well that his master could train other disciples, and was not obligated to choose him, which made the weight of this kindness even heavier. Guan looked down at him and said, "Since you have acknowledged me as your master, it is something a master should do. Get up now. I do not seek your repayment in the future, just that you avoid causing trouble and implicating your master." Yang Jian looked up and saw Guan blinking at him. He immediately understood that his master was joking with him, just like Master Putis' advice to Sun Wukong in Journey to the West. "Master, get up now. A real man doesn't cry. What kind of behavior is this?" "All right." Watching Guan and Yang Jian, the immortal-seeking Taoist felt deeply moved. He had a feeling that many years later, today's events would become a story as Yang Jian's name shook the world. He took 2 steps forward and said, "Taoist friend, our meeting is fate. I have a divine skill here that I would like to give to your disciple. Would you mind?" Guan said, "Jianer, quickly bow in gratitude to Senior." Upon hearing this, Yang Jian turned around, cupped his fists and bowed to the immortal-seeking Taoist, thanking him for the divine skill. The immortal-seeking Taoist took out a secret book from his sleeve and handed it to Yang Jian. "Young friend, what is your name? I will keep an eye on your achievements in the future." Yang Jian took the secret book, first looking at Guan. Seeing him nod, he then replied, "My name is Yang Jian." Yang Jian. The immortal-seeking Taoist noted the name. He felt like he had seen it somewhere in a book before. Afterward, the immortal-seeking Taoist did not disturb the master and disciple any further, and took his leave. Guan began to teach Yang Jian the heaven and earth primordial skill. The all things form and energy art, and the heaven and earth primordial skill were Guan's foundation techniques. Even and Hao only practiced a lower version, showing how much Guan valued Yang Jian. Yang Jian had been in the valley for many years. Though he didn't have an outstanding personality, Guan liked his honesty. This boy had ambitions but did things steadily. He clearly wanted to get close to Guan, but never looked for a chance to face Guan directly. Instead, he dutifully served the Blood Prison Great Saint and the White Spirit Rat for years, which even Guan found amusing. In Guan's eyes, Yang Jian was like an unpolished gem, and he looked forward to seeing what kind of person Yang Jian would become under his careful training. Guan did not seek Yang Jian's repayment in the future. Teaching Yang Jian was just an embellishment to his leisurely life. He merely wanted to teach a disciple, nothing more. In the evening, at the Third Medicine Valley, Guan rode the Blood Prison Great Saint down from the transmission array platform, with Yang Jian following beside him. "Master, where have you been? I haven't seen you for 4 days." A passing and Xian asked curiously. Her eyes turned to Yang Jian, widening as she carefully examined him. "Just went out for a walk," Guan casually replied, then dismounted and walked alone towards the pavilion. An Xian immediately approached Yang Jian, examined him closely and asked, "Are you really Yang Jian? How have you changed so much?" Yang Jian had already mastered the sorcery of the all things form and energy art, letting him conceal his aura, but he couldn't precisely disguise his realm. He said nervously, "Master gave me an elixir to temper my muscles and bones, so my skin has become a bit whiter." "I see, it looks like Master has accepted you as a closed-door disciple." An Xian smiled. She did not harbor any jealousy, as her master was far more powerful than Guan. Although the disciples of the Medicine Valley all called Guan master, it was merely a term of respect with no actual relationship. Yang Jian scratched his head and smiled. Though still shy, he now exuded more confidence. The two chatted for a while, and more disciples noticed Yang Jian's changes, gathering around to inquire. In just a few days, Yang Jian seemed to have transformed from a countryside boy into a clean and handsome young gentleman, which was quite a shock for the disciples who knew him. Soon, the news about Yang Jian becoming Guan's closed-door disciple spread, and because of Yang Jian's transformation, Guan became even more mysterious in the eyes of the disciples. In the days to follow, Yang Jian continued to do chores like other servant disciples, but he spent most of his spare time on cultivation, hiding in his room for most of the day. To prevent anyone from disturbing his cultivation, Guan arranged a separate courtyard for him. Yang Jian truly felt the change in status that came with becoming Guan's disciple, making him even more grateful to Guan. Time flew by. Another new spring festival arrived. The immortal cultivation world was already dominated by the Heavenly Rankings tournament. The Supreme Sect had set the specific date for the Heavenly Rankings tournament to be in 10 years during the spring festival. When Yi Lan and Zhen Qin came to the Third Medicine Valley to visit Guan, Guan introduced Yang Jian to them and pointed out that he was his disciple. Because of this, Yi Lan even gifted Yang Jian a magic artifact. Zhen Qin was very happy, considering herself his senior sister, and told him to come to the inner sect if he ever needed anything. Little did they know, Guan introduced Yang Jian to them to provide them with a backing. Since his physique awakening, Yang Jian had cultivated for half a year, raising his cultivation level from the 5th layer to the 6th layer of the Foundation Establishment realm. This speed was very fast, and it was estimated that he could form his core before the Heavenly Rankings tournament started. One should know that half a year ago, he was only a 3rd layer energy cultivation cultivator. Apart from the increase in cultivation level, Yang Jian's understanding of the all things form and energy art was very quick. It seemed he was naturally suited for body refinement. LV Baitian also visited the Third Medicine Valley to speak with Guan. Guan similarly introduced Yang Jian to LV Baitian. In the room, LV Baitian looked over Yang Jian, who was energetic, becoming more astonished as he gazed. This chi blood was extraordinary. Even though Yang Jian hid his cultivation level, his aura made anyone feel that he was not ordinary at first glance. Upon knowing that this person was the sect leader of the Supreme Sect, Yang Jian was very surprised. But compared to before, he treated others more composedly, a confidence that came from his strength. Moreover, he knew his master was a loose immortal, more powerful than anyone in the Supreme Sect. This secret was only known to him and the Blood Prison Great Saint, making him more proud. Your disciple is remarkable. It's a waste for him to be your disciple. Why not let him come with me to the inner sect for training? LV Batian said. Before Guan could answer, Yongjian quickly responded. Thank you for your kind offer, sect leader, but I only wish to serve my master. I will never take a second master in this life. LV Batian's expression became strange. Guan chuckled and said, Naughty boy. How dare you interrupt when I'm speaking with the sect leader? LV Batian couldn't help but look at Guan. For some reason he felt that Guan had changed. This change was hard to articulate. Auras. Yes. That was the feeling. From the moment he entered the room, he felt that Guan and Yongjian shared a common aura. One that only the proudest of heaven possessed. Could it be that Guan had encountered a great opportunity? LV Batian pondered and then smiled. No harm done. Since he is your disciple, I wouldn't force it. Let's talk about the Heavenly Rankings tournament. Guan nodded, and the two began discussing the Heavenly Rankings tournament. Only then did Yongjian learn that the Heavenly Rankings tournament, which had become the talk of the immortal cultivation world, was his master's idea. Although a bit surprised, he was not shocked. What is the Heavenly Rankings tournament compared to this? His master was a loose immortal, definitely the most powerful in the world. Even the mysterious sword Venerable Fudao might not be his master's opponent. Sword Venerable Fudao's battle records were widely known, but the realm of his opponents was not clearly transmitted. At least, Yongjian didn't know. An ancient hour later, the three descended the stairs. LV Batian did not leave but stayed at the Third Medicine Valley for the festival, chatting with Guan. He found it very enjoyable, as Guan always inspired him, and there was no scheming between them. They could open up their hearts and drink freely. Yongjian was also praised by many disciples. His wine cup rarely left his hand, making this the happiest spring festival of his life. Late at night, Guan came to Nianchu Cave, bringing fine wine and delicacies. He sat with Tian Yaoer, Tianqing and Tian by around a stone table. Eat slowly, there's plenty more. Guan said, watching the three demons devour the food, laughing. He still wore a mask, which exposed his mouth so he could drink. Tian Yaoer put down the roasted lamb leg in her hand, wiped the grease from the corner of her mouth, and asked curiously, Master, you seem very happy? Not bad. I accepted a disciple in the past half-year. He has excellent talent and constantly gives me surprises, so I'm naturally in a good mood. Guan replied, taking the opportunity to caution the three demons not to be lazy. Tian Yaoer frowned and asked, Disciple? Male or female? Male why? Nothing. Don't worry, Master. I won't disappoint you either. I'll spar with your disciple sometime in the future. Tian Yaoer said confidently. Guan smiled and agreed to the request. Although Tian Yaoer's maximum lifespan was longer than Yongjian's, as a demon, it was not comparable. In terms of talent, Tian Yaoer could not match Yongjian. Guan was more eager to see a spar between Enhao and Yongjian. After the spring festival, he planned to find a place to break through, and then visit Enhao. Chapter 236 Breakthrough to the 9 Layers of the Carefree Immortal Realm. New Year's just passed, and all things in heaven and earth began to revive. Guan walked through the air, admiring the ocean scenery along the way. Although the rumors about the world-destroying sea tide were spreading far and wide, the ocean still looked calm, without the slightest sign of disaster. He spread out his divine sense, searching for a suitable place to break through. He was already very far from the continent, and his limitless freedom step had already crossed 100 steps. With his current cultivation level, he could step across a distance dozens of times that of the continent, showing just how far this sea area was from the continent. The spiritual energy of the beings in the ocean was exceptionally dense, far exceeding that of the continent. Moreover, the cultivation levels of the oceanic demon beasts were very high. He even saw a whale at the loose immortal realm, as large as half the continent, capable of swallowing the territory of 3 dynasties in one gulp, exaggeration to the extreme. Upon arriving here, the aura of human cultivators became rare. The occasional aura felt belonged entirely to immortal path realm cultivators. Without a cultivation level at the Nirvana realm, one couldn't enter this sea area. Finally, Guyan's gaze locked on a grand sea island. The island was teeming with life, even housing a power formed by hundreds of thousands of demons, with most of the demon soldiers training in the plains. The strongest demon had reached the second layer of the loose immortal realm. The ninth layer, heaven and earth flying immortal realm, Guan stealthily sneaked into the forest, meditating under a tree and activating the lifespan barrier. He did not immediately attempt to break through but instead spread out his divine sense, observing the situation all around. Within the range of his divine sense, he felt the aura of wandering immortals. Fortunately, there were no heaven and earth flying immortals. Heaven and earth flying immortals were always few in numbers, not visible to mortal spirits. After all, they could leave this world. When Guan expanded the range of his divine sense to its maximum, he still did not see any heaven and earth flying immortals, finally putting his heart at ease. Though he couldn't see any heaven and earth flying immortals at sea, if he looked up at the sky, he could daily see the figures of heaven and earth flying immortals coming and going, like meteors streaking across the sky. Guan retracted his divine sense and pulled up the attribute panel. Name: Guan, lifespan 128/1689074. Physique: mystic holy body. Cultivation level: heaven and earth flying immortal realm, 9th layer. With 10 million years of lifespan invested, could I break through to a higher realm? The 8th to 9th layer of the heaven and earth flying immortal realm cost 30,000 years of lifespan. To reach a higher realm, failing once would mean waiting for more than 30,000 years before trying again. Failing 100 times would cost at least 3 million years of lifespan, which made him shudder just thinking about it. If he could use 10 million years of lifespan to break through to a higher realm, he would consider himself lucky. So he dared not upgrade his cultivation technique or physique, deciding to brute force his way in the realm instead. Guan took a deep breath and first invested 1 million years of lifespan to test the waters. You cultivated through energy absorption for 50,000 years, using the great accomplishment of heaven and earth primordial skill to forcefully break through to the carefree primordial immortal realm. You began to cross the tribulation, but you did not survive the ultimate reincarnation, heavenly tribulation, and failed. You cultivated through energy absorption for 100,000 years, using the great accomplishment of heaven and earth primordial skill to forcefully break through to the carefree primordial immortal realm. You began to cross the tribulation, but you did not survive the ultimate reincarnation, heavenly tribulation, and failed. Crossing the tribulation every 50,000 years? A bit harsh. Guan looked at the constant failure prompts before him, feeling somewhat panicked. 1 million years of lifespan resulted in just 20 failures. It would take 5 million years of lifespan to fail 100 times. The more Guan thought, the more anxious he became. His heart hardened, and he directly invested 5 million years of lifespan into cultivation. Fail. Fail. Guan couldn't even be bothered to look closely, just seeing that as long as the prompt didn't grow longer, it meant all failures. After all, 5 million years of lifespan ultimately went down the drain, another 100 failures. This carefree primordial immortal realm was truly difficult to break through. No wonder he had never even heard of it in the real world. There were legends of heaven and earth flying immortals above the sea, but no tales of carefree primordial immortals. Guan pulled up the attribute panel again, and seeing there were still 10 million years of lifespan left, his heart settled a little. Another 5 million years of lifespan. He didn't believe he couldn't break through. Series of prompts crazily popped up, and within the lifespan barrier, spiritual energy never surged, and the leaves above his head swayed with the wind, producing rustling sounds that made Guan feel malice. It was as if the lifespan barrier was mocking him. The second 5 million years of lifespan all ended up in failures. He had already spent 11 million years of lifespan, failing 220 times to cross the tribulation. If he upgraded his cultivation technique and physique first, today would he be unable to break through? But even if he didn't break through, at least his strength would have increased like now. If he ultimately failed, he would have gained nothing. Guan couldn't accept such a failure, so he continued investing, this time putting in 500,000 years of lifespan. Constant failures appeared before him, but finally, a prompt suddenly lengthened, surprising him with joy. It worked. You cultivated through energy absorption for 350,000 years, using the great accomplishment of heaven and earth primordial skill to forcefully break through to the carefree primordial immortal realm. You began to cross the tribulation. You survived the ultimate reincarnation heavenly tribulation successfully, and your cultivation level advanced to the first layer of the carefree primordial immortal realm. You cultivated through energy absorption for 410,000 years, advancing your cultivation level to the second layer of the carefree primordial immortal realm. You cultivated through energy absorption for 470,000 years, advancing your cultivation level to the third layer of the carefree primordial immortal realm. You cultivated through energy absorption for 500,000 years, your cultivation level increased. 60,000 years for a small realm advancement. This carefree primordial immortal was truly fierce. Guan felt sentimental. The lifespan barrier finally began to function. An earth spirit energy surged into his body. He didn't remain idle, continuously investing lifespan into his cultivation. His cultivation small realms could only be at the 9th layer. He wasn't used to presenting himself as an observer below the 8th layer, lacking a sense of security. Eventually, he spent another 490,000 years of lifespan to attain the 9th layer of the carefree primordial immortal realm. The 8th layer to the 9th layer shockingly cost him 150,000 years of lifespan. This breakthrough took nearly 12 million years of lifespan to reach the 9th layer of the carefree primordial immortal realm. An utterly terrifying figure. Boom. The earth rumbled, and spiritual energy soared like a tide, covering the grass within the barrier. All spirit energy on the entire island and the surrounding sea area abruptly plummeted, startling all beings into panic and chaos. The influence of the lifespan barrier continued to expand. The spiritual energy required from the 9th layer heaven and earth flying immortal realm to the 9th layer of the carefree primordial immortal realm was immense. After a few breaths, ocean demons erupted from beneath the sea. Heaven and earth were in an uproar. The island fell into a clamor as the demons roared, deafeningly. Guan saw shape-shifting demons flying over the forest, thinking an enemy was attacking the island. Guan closed his eyes and began to feel the changes within himself. He wanted to see what the carefree primordial immortal had that made it so hard to break through. After 30 minutes, a flood of profound insights exploded in Guan's mind like the universe's Big Bang. Infinite information pouring into his consciousness. Heaven and earth rules. Heaven and earth flying immortal required cultivating the path of 5 elements to perceive higher realms. With the 5 elements' perfection, one could perceive the heaven and earth rules. All things in the world were composed of the unseen and untouchable power of rules. The 5 elements were the foundation, as stated in the Tao Te Ching, that Tao produced 1, 1 produced 2, 2 produced 3, and 3 produced all things. The carefree primordial immortal was the realm of perceiving the rules of heaven and earth. Reaching this realm meant being completely unbounded by the constraints of heaven and earth, completely carefree. The primordial spirit underwent a baptism by the rules of heaven and earth, reaching transcendence. His golden core and mystic heart were transforming into higher existences. The golden core was accumulating the power of heaven and earth rules to form his Tao. What was Tao? Tao encompassed everything: cultivation techniques, spells, divine skills, etc. Everything about his existence was his Tao. The golden core generated the Tao, transforming into the primordial elixir. No wonder the nascent soul and golden core independently existed. The nascent soul transformed into the primordial spirit, and the golden core transformed into the Tao. Guan guessed they would merge at some future realm, making him the incarnation of the Tao. Time flew by quickly. As Earth's spiritual energy sank faster, the clouds above churned violently as if ready to collapse with the spiritual energy. The island's demons were terrified, assembling in formations and hiding within the island, not daring to come out. Fortunately, no demon intruded into the lifespan barrier. After an hour, Guan successfully transformed into a carefree primordial immortal, breaking free from heaven and earth rules, truly carefree. Wherever the Tao existed, the mind could reach. What was the existence of Tao? Places and beings inheriting Guan's Taoist sorcery were where the Tao existed, enabling him to easily escape and control their causes and effects. Guan realized the way of cause and effect was a unique Taoist sorcery. As his realm increased, his mastery over cause and effect grew deeper. The so-called cause and effect were the invisible forces produced by the interaction of all beings. There were cause and effect, and gathering endless cause and effect together was the world. After a major realm breakthrough, Guan's cultivation level began to surge. The primordial elixir had already deduced his Tao, and all the cause and effect related to him would appear in his Tao. He was moving towards the realm of omniscience. First, understand all his cause and effect. At higher realms, who knows if he could comprehend all cause and effect? After 3 hours, night fell, and Guan finally reached the 9th layer of the carefree primordial immortal realm. His divine sense range was expanding continuously, perceiving the lifespan barrier's extraction range of Earth spirit energy significantly exceeded his 9th layer heaven and Earth flying immortal realm range. Due to this immense scope, no one, not even a demon, could detect the focal point of spiritual energy's descent. When the Earth's spiritual energy ceased flowing into Guan, he slowly stood up and opened his eyes. He instantly transformed into an aurora and vanished from the spot. Then he arrived in front of a mansion. As it was late at night, the streets were empty, but the mansion within was brightly lit. He looked up, and the signboard bore 2 words: G Mansion. Through the Tao of his primordial elixir, he arrived at the G Mansion where his cause and effect resided. Yes, it was arriving, not teleporting. Arriving wouldn't produce any signs between the 2 places, breaking free from the rules of heaven and earth. Arriving at another place from a higher dimension. He was essentially traveling within his Tao. This feeling was truly marvelous. Guan walked towards the G Mansion, the place of his birth and childhood. Taking a step past the main gate, he walked within the courtyard. An old servant carrying a lantern walked towards him, passing through his body. This, too, was the mystical nature of the carefree primordial immortal. Mortal spirits couldn't see, mortal spirits couldn't touch. No wonder there were no legends of the carefree primordial immortal. For the first time, Guan felt invincible. Chapter 237. Soul of the G family ancestor. Late at night, the G Mansion was dimly lit. Guan walked leisurely through the corridors, and childhood memories kept surfacing. As the starting point of Guan's life, he had deep feelings for the G Mansion. From childhood to adulthood, he lived quite well in the G Mansion. Apart from the incident when he smashed the flower bed, and was nearly punished by having his hand cut off, he had a good life without being bullied by other G family members. Although there were occasional conflicts among the house servants, it never escalated to a point of deadly enmity. Having not returned for 100 years, the G Mansion felt both familiar and unfamiliar to him. What was familiar were the furnishings and environment, which had not changed much. What was unfamiliar were the people. There were many branches of the G family, and the G Mansion he was in was just one among many, with branches spread across 3 generations. Before the demon catastrophe, the G family had hidden in the 7-star spirit realm. Only the main family and the high-ranking and talented disciples went into hiding. After the catastrophe, those who had hidden in the 7-star spirit realm returned to their respective homelands to continue developing the family. Guan even saw branches of the G family on the ocean, though they stayed close to the mainland, not daring to venture far because the demons in the ocean were powerful, and high-level demons could be encountered frequently. The person with the highest cultivation level in this G Mansion was in the unification realm. Back then, those in the unification realm were beings he had to look up to. Suddenly, Guan detected a faint soul aura, piquing his interest. He immediately walked toward that direction. Along the way, figures passed by him. He even walked through the courtyard walls as if everything there was illusory to him. Guan saw a familiar face, the court guardian who almost cut off his hand back then. 100 years had passed. The guardian now had gray hair and looked aged. He no longer appeared fierce but rather kind and gentle. Guan merely glanced at him, having no thought of seeking revenge. Indeed, it was his fault for smashing the flower bed back then. The guardian was just doing his duty, and now, their realms were worlds apart. Why should he hold a grudge? The G Mansion was large, and Guan walked leisurely as if on a casual stroll. An hour later he arrived at the place where the mysterious soul resided, which turned out to be the ancestral hall of the Ji mansion. He passed through the door and saw rows of spirit tablets, all of Ji family's ancestors, and the soul was hidden within the main spirit tablet. Guan approached the spirit tablet, noting the name on it, Jizhan. A soul was hidden deep inside the spirit tablet, an old man, lying on his side, seemingly napping. He was hidden in the power of cause and effect, not in an ordinary exotic space, where beings couldn't detect his presence with divine sense. Jizhan turned over as if dreaming, unaware that someone was spying on him. Guan cast lifespan detection on him, but the data came back as 0, not even displaying his realm. In the unseen, Jizhan had countless connections with the entire Ji mansion, threads of cause and effect among them, one involving Ji Xiaoyu. Jizhan was an ancestral bloodline of Ji Xiaoyu. Following Ji Xiaoyu's line of cause and effect, Guan saw a segment that was very blurry, even to his eyes. Ji Xiaoyu's cause and effect seemed off, giving Guan an eerie feeling as if Ji Xiaoyu had suddenly become someone else at a certain stage. Looking closely, the change seemed to occur when Ji Xiaoyu was 10 years old. He did not dwell on it, for he wasn't here to investigate Ji Xiaoyu. Ji Xiaoyu possessed the primordial Taoist talisman, so having special causes and effects was not surprising. Guan did not stay long and quickly turned away from the ancestral hall. Deep within the spirit tablet, Jizhan suddenly turned over and sat up. He scratched his head, muttering, "Strange, just now I felt a sense of unease. Could it be that the Ji family is facing another calamity? Blame it on that 7 stars spirit realm. Sigh, the current generation truly lacks ambition, always relying on others. I can only watch and hope that she can restore the Ji family to its former glory." Jizhan lay down again and continued to sleep. For him, time had no meaning. He was accustomed to indulging in dreams, enjoying the reincarnations he created for himself. At dawn, the sunlight swept from the horizon. Qi Bei stood on the beach, frowning as he gazed into the distance. His face was pale. During the battle in Divine Exotic City, he had been stung by the immortal swallowing scorpion from the 7 stars spirit realm, and the scorpion venom had not been fully purged from his body. A figure emerged from the forest behind him. It was Qi Jiuxiao, the genius from the Star Sea congregations. "Master, and how that kid was really outrageous. I passed on my divine skills to him, and he mastered them last night. It's simply unnatural." Qi Jiuxiao cursed as he approached, resentful of Enhao's extraordinary talent. He had indeed been defeated, acknowledging that Enhao's talent and comprehension surpassed his own. Qi Bei did not respond, still staring into the distance. "Master, what are you looking at?" Qi Jiuxiao couldn't help but ask when he saw his master lost in thought. Qi Bei snapped back to reality and said, "The spiritual energy over the sea seems unusual. I suspect there is an anomaly somewhere, possibly related to the recently rumored world-destroying sea tide." Qi Jiuxiao frowned and said, "What world-destroying sea tide? It must be the 7 stars spirit realm causing trouble. That huge rift appeared too coincidentally." Qi Bei did not reply, thinking those comments were pointless. At that moment, a 7-colored radiance descended from the sky, landing beside them, instantly drawing their attention. They turned to see a figure within the radiance. It was a mysterious figure enveloped in dark purple demonic qi. Qi Jiuxiao's eyes widened. "Sword Venerable Fudao?" Qi Bei could not forget the scene where Guan easily killed 2 wandering immortals, and he quickly bowed. No matter what, the other had saved his life, so he should pay his respects. "Thank you for looking after my disciple all these years," Guan said. Qi Bei was about to speak when Guan suddenly appeared in front of him, reaching out with his right hand. 2 fingers pointed at Qi Bei's chest, rendering him immobile instantly. "Master!" Qi Jiuxiao was startled, instinctively wanting to rush forward. "Stay put," Qi Bei shouted, even using his mana to restrain Qi Jiuxiao. "The senior is detoxifying me." Qi Bei took a deep breath and said slowly, his eyes filled with complex emotions. As Guan's mana entered his body, he suddenly felt insignificantly small. In the face of this power, the wandering immortal realm was so weak, vulnerable. How powerful were the heaven and earth flying immortals? Although Qi Bei was a wandering immortal, he lacked the confidence to reach the heaven and earth flying immortal realm in the future. It seemed only one great realm apart, but he couldn't imagine how to break through to the heaven and earth flying immortal realm. Qi Jiuxiao was overjoyed at his master's words. He had been constantly worried about his master's poisoning, feeling helpless and anxious. He never expected Enhao's master could purge the immortal swallowing scorpion's poison. After a few breaths, Guan withdrew his hand and said, "I'd like to spend some time alone with my disciple." Then he turned and walked into the forest. Qi Jiuxiao quickly bowed, not daring to obstruct him. Qi Bei felt the poison in his body dissipating, and with it, the weight on his heart. He looked at Guan with awe. Such a terrifying poison, yet he could easily expel it. Little did he know, Guan could have eradicated the poison instantly but deliberately prolonged the process. Even so, it was beyond Qi Bai's reach. Qi Jiuxiao quickly came to Qi Bai's side, concerned about his condition. Deep within the island, hundreds of miles away in the mountains, Enhao sat cross-legged on a mountainside, cultivating. Divinity Transformation Realm 4th Layer. Still stunning. Guan stood behind Enhao, reflecting on his current cultivation level. Enhao was now only 94 years old, and a 94-year-old cultivator in the Divinity Transformation Realm, 4th Layer, would surpass Li Xiandao in no time. Enhao was still the fastest cultivator Guan had ever known. At 128 years old, having reached the 9th layer of the carefree immortal realm, Guan said, "Based on your cultivation level, you haven't been slacking." Enhao abruptly opened his eyes, turned around, showing a look of surprise and joy. He quickly stood up, excitedly asking, "Master, what brings you here?" Guan replied, "I came to check on you." Hearing this, Enhao became even happier, rushing to Guan, asking various questions, losing his usual composure. In front of Guan, he still seemed like that lively, mischievous boy. The master and disciple talked for a long time before Guan got to the point. "How is your practice of the Yangwood primordial skill progressing?" Enhao's spirit root qualification was strong, not because of a single root attribute, but because each of his spirit roots was of heavenly spirit root level. In other words, Enhao could cultivate the 5 elements skill. Practicing the heaven and earth primordial skill was not considered abandoning his current practice, because the 2 cultivation techniques were from the same origin. "Very well, I have already cultivated the yang wood. This spiritual wood can absorb spiritual power, and it's quite domineering." Enhao eagerly described his accomplishments, not wanting to disappoint his master. After he finished, Guan said, "I will teach you a higher-level cultivation technique. The Yangwood primordial skill is just one foundation of this technique." Upon hearing this, Enhao's eyes lit up, and he quickly nodded. "This technique cannot be disclosed as it may attract calamities. Also, your tribulation crossing will be more difficult than cultivators of the same realm, so be mentally prepared." Guan reminded him, and Enhao suddenly realized, heavenly tribulation is related to the cultivation technique? No wonder my tribulations always astonish others. Guan continued saying, "Recently, I have taken on another disciple. Your junior apprentice's qualification is also outstanding, not inferior to yours. As the senior apprentice, you must set an example and not be surpassed by him." "A junior apprentice?" Enhao frowned, feeling a sudden tension. If someone else had said this, he would have dismissed it, believing no one could match his qualifications. But hearing it from his master, he didn't doubt it. There was someone with qualifications comparable to his, possibly younger, giving him a sense of urgency. "Master, what is my junior apprentice's name?" Enhao cautiously asked. "One day, you will meet and get to know each other because you are cultivating the same technique." Guan answered. Could it be Li Ya? Enhao thought of the Taitsung divine shocking sword that Li Ya had used. Soon he dismissed this guess. Li Ya was older than him and wasn't considered a genius, at least in his eyes, quite ordinary. Chapter 238. 7 Days in Outer Heaven. Vast expanse of heaven and earth. After passing down the heaven and earth primordial skill to Enhao, Guan didn't linger longer and quickly left the island. In the sky, He saw the distant ocean stirring up massive waves, originating from the place of his breakthrough. The spiritual energy he consumed during his breakthrough was enormous, causing the spiritual energy of heaven and earth to sink, inevitably shaking the ocean. Fortunately, that sea region did not have any human-occupied mainland. The demon creatures surviving there all had cultivation levels, so even if the island was flooded, they wouldn't die. Besides, the waves just swept across rather than raising the sea level. Guan just glanced at it and did not give it much thought, avoiding any burden on himself. He harbored good intentions and avoided harming innocent beings as much as possible. Still, if his cultivation inadvertently affected innocent lives, he couldn't help it, and he would not stop his progress. Upon returning to the Supreme Sect, Guan first wandered around the Mystic Valley. Lu Jiujia and the servant disciples were already accustomed to days without Guan. Although Guan often visited the Mystic Valley, everyone knew that his focus was on the inner sect's Medicine Valley, which they understood. Without Guan, they felt no pressure. Half an hour later, Guan arrived at the third Medicine Valley. Compared to the Mystic Valley, the third Medicine Valley was much livelier. Guan stepped down from the transmission array platform, looked around, and saw the past of every servant disciple before his eyes. A mortal spirit's century-long life was just a fleeting moment for him. Guan looked at an Xian, peering into her past, and sure enough he saw his own figure. He could see the past of mortal spirits, and so could other carefree primordial immortals. This made him more grateful for his choice. Luckily he stayed in the Supreme Sect. If he had roamed the world, the increasing causality would have attracted the attention of hidden carefree primordial immortals. If such transcendental beings found his growth speed unreasonable, it would have been troublesome. Guan walked to the wooden fence in the garden area, looked up, and found his vision far beyond before, feeling more and more that the great heavenly spirit land was vast. The name Great Heaven and Earth was indeed well-deserved. This continent was already vastly broader than Earth in his past life, yet it was like dust in the entire Great Heaven and Earth. As his field of vision expanded, he saw more heaven and earth flying immortals coming and going. He could even see the scenes beyond heaven. A splendid star sea with breathtaking spectacles, with starry lights resembling celestial rivers, filled with countless stars like great waves sifting through sand, and gigantic nebulas like cosmic trees guiding all beings. Guan's gaze was drawn to the sun illuminating heaven and earth. Outside the great heaven and earth, there were not just one, but 7 enormous suns, orbiting around the great heaven and earth under some mysterious rule, allowing every place within it to maintain a regular pattern of 4 seasons and day-night cycles. With his eyesight, he saw that each of the 7 suns contained a mysterious being. They were colossal, with various forms. Some were birds, others beasts, and even human-like figures, instilling awe. The sun's surface had a power barrier that prevented Guan from seeing their true forms, which also made lifespan detection impossible. Guan merely glanced before looking away, avoiding disturbing the beings within the suns. Carefree primordial immortals could easily cross the sky to the outer universe, but he didn't want to go for now. Staying at the Supreme Sect was good enough. He had no urgent enemies, so exploring was unnecessary. He could now roam the world freely. With the mystique of a carefree primordial immortal, if he wished, no life below a carefree primordial immortal would see or touch him. Guan looked towards the distant heaven and earth, his vision extending rapidly for countless miles. A vast expanse of ocean swept past his eyes. He saw more prosperous continents and scenes of life fighting, including wars, battles between immortal great cultivators, and giant spirit beasts revered as divine beasts roaming the world, with countless mortals kneeling in worship. There were also many places his vision could not penetrate, indicating that they might be home to carefree primordial immortals. Such places were either far from the mortal world or within extremely prosperous human or demon lands. Guan even saw a continent full of immortal beings, with the lowest cultivation being the Nirvana realm, which amazed him. Fortunately, that continent was incredibly distant. Even Nirvana realm cultivators would find it difficult to cross because the journey was fraught with dangers. He had just seen a loose immortal swallowed by a mysterious giant sea demon, an event that happened so suddenly. The loose immortal was just passing by at an immense speed beyond mortal sight, yet was still devoured, perishing instantly. Guan felt as if he was exploring. This kind of peering brought him novelty. The whole world seemed to reveal its true face before him, making him unable to stop. He did not know how much time had passed. Yu Yingying came beside him and asked, "What are you thinking about? Why have you been staring blankly for so long?" Guan withdrew his gaze, looked at her, and smiled gently. "I am thinking about how vast the star sea congregations are, and how broad the world outside is." Yu Yingying laughed and replied, "If you want to go to the ocean, I can arrange it for you. As for how large the star sea congregations are, even I, who was born there, am unsure. The sea area occupied by the star sea congregations is thousands of times larger than this continent, and that's just my estimation." Guan nodded slightly. The territory of the star sea congregations indeed exceeded the continent's size by thousands of times, but it did not seem vast to him because he could see even further. He wondered if there were carefree primordial immortals in the star sea congregations. Guan thought that even if there were, they would not be in the mortal world. Though Guan could see the other side of the mortal world, he did not find the existence of carefree primordial immortals. It was just hard to see them, but he could not be sure they did not exist. Perhaps carefree primordial immortals could not spy on each other. Therefore, this realm was called carefree. Speaking of which, the internal assessment of the star sea congregations is about to start. I wonder if Xian Tianyi will make a name for himself this time. Yu Yingying said, her face full of reminiscence. When Guan heard this, he couldn't help but ask, "Is there a threshold for the internal assessment?" Li Ye, Zhang Buku, and Hao had already joined the star sea congregations. Guan looked forward to seeing them make a name for themselves. All three had received his inheritance. If they could thrive in the star sea congregations, he would naturally be pleased. No, anyone under 1,000 years old can participate. By the way, Li Ye from the Supreme Sect is expected to take part. That divine exotic city is a fake immortal treasure. So many prodigies will want to compete with him. Yu Yingying smiled wickedly, with an expression of anticipating someone to be embarrassed. The two of them continued chatting, the topic revolving around the star sea congregations. Although Yu Yingying did not want to return, she spoke with pride about the star sea congregations, often belittling the Supreme Sect. This made Guan look forward to the future of the Supreme Sect. The future was long, and there was no rush. Who could tell if the Supreme Sect would be more powerful, or the star sea congregations more prominent in 10,000 years? Although Guan had already reached the 9th layer of the carefree primordial immortal stage, his life had just started at 128 years old. Not to mention the future, he was very much looking forward to tomorrow. After chatting with Yu Yingying for a while, Guan moved to another place to continue observing the great heavenly spirit land. In the extremely distant west, he saw a majestic mountain located in a desert, surrounded by sky-covering sandstorms, with a golden radiant giant palace atop the peak, constantly receiving and sending off monks. That palace was also a place his vision could not penetrate. This indicated that the palace likely had a carefree primordial immortal. The world was indeed vast and populated with numerous great powers. Not every heaven and earth flying immortal or higher existence would leave the mortal world. In the days that followed, whenever Guan had time, he observed the heaven and earth. What made him most wary was the north. There lay a vast continent, the largest he had ever seen. He could only see its outline from the edges, and as soon as he got closer, a mysterious force barred his sight. It was a very mysterious power present in all things. It must be Qi Fortune. The Supreme Sect also gathered similar power, but compared to that continent, its Qi Fortune was like a grain of rice compared to the bright sun. He speculated that the continent was the strongest area in the great heavenly spirit land, but he could only observe with just his eyesight. That continent was also incredibly far from the land of the 3 dynasties. Crossing mountains and seas to reach it was harder than the journey to the west. Spring of the first year of being a carefree primordial immortal passed. Despite reaching a new realm, Guan continued living as before, traversing various medicine valleys, sometimes visiting the outer gate city to read, and occasionally drinking and chatting with friends. Life was very leisurely. In the mountains and forests, Yang Jian, dressed in blue, continuously attacked Guan. His movements were agile, and his punches and kicks were fierce, while Guan stood still, dismantling each move in an unhurried manner. The faster Yang Jian was, the slower Guan seemed. Yang Jian was kicked by Guan again, crashing into a tree and shaking down many leaves. This time, Yang Jian didn't have the strength to get up, his qi exhausted, but he didn't feel frustrated. Instead, he looked at his master expectantly. He couldn't match his master's prowess, but he wanted to hear his master's evaluation of him. The path of physical cultivation is not so narrow. Not just fists and feet can become magic artifacts. Every part of the body can, Guan said, feeling gratified. This boy's growth speed was amazing, even surpassing in how back then. Perhaps the elixir's efficacy still lingered, making Guan feel astonished. Set a goal. Reach the nirvana realm within 500 years. Before that, Yang Jian couldn't go down the mountain to train. At most, he could return to visit family. Yang Jian didn't know that his master had set a cultivation goal in his heart. He stood up and said, "Master, should I mainly practice the all things form and energy art, the heaven and earth primordial skill, or the Taoist gang primal energy you taught me? They all seem profound and hard to master." Guan replied, "Take it slow, there's no need to rush to break through the cultivation realm. You can start by laying a solid foundation." Yang Jian felt it made sense. Following Guan in cultivation meant he had all the elixirs he needed and no usual expenses, so he didn't need to hurry. "Master, when would you be willing to participate in the celestial ranking tournament?" Yang Jian suddenly asked, his tone full of anticipation. Chapter 239. This time I win. Since being given a life-altering destiny by his master, Yang Jian believed that his master was the most powerful cultivator in the world. No one, be it the sword venerable Fu Dao, Taoist lord, or the super-powerful forces like the Seven Stars Spirit Realm and Star Sea congregations, could match his master. He wanted to see his master renowned across the world, for as his disciple, it would be a moment of pride. Guan looked at him with a stern expression and said, "Are you cultivating to seek fame, or to pursue immortality? If it is fame you seek, then go to the mundane world, where you can become an ultimate martial expert." Yang Jian thought his master was angry and quickly replied, "Of course it is to pursue immortality. Master, I was wrong. I was just curious after hearing other disciples talking about the ranking competition." Guan did not let him off so easily, using this opportunity to temper his character. In a heartfelt tone he said, "Not to mention your current physique is against the laws of nature. If others learn about it, it may bring disaster upon you. There are many who are aware of their heavenly destiny. I am strong, but there are always others out there stronger than the likes of loose immortals. A cultivator should cherish what they already have rather than recklessly seize opportunities. Do not flaunt. Do not underestimate the common people of the world." Yang Jian felt ashamed, filled with guilt. Recently, he indeed had developed a sense of pride, seeing other disciples in the valley struggling with basic qi cultivation, while he was already at the foundation establishment level, feeling superior. "Though I do not seek repayment from you, I do not want you to become someone who acts recklessly. Since you are cultivating immortality, you ought to understand that there is a heavenly destiny beyond human efforts. If you stray down the wrong path, you will eventually be punished by the heavens. I do not wish for you to become someone who seeks vainglory. Do you understand?" Guan continued, bringing tears to Yang Jian's eyes. Yang Jian was not moved by grand principles. It was hearing his master say once more that repayment was not required that touched him, making him feel unworthy. He knew exactly what he was thinking. Even though he was reborn anew, his heart still harbored selfish desires and a darker side, making him feel ashamed of himself. Look at his master, clearly an immortal, yet never bullying the weak, humbly staying within the supreme sect, living among mortals without arrogance. He should learn from his master and become a true cultivator. "Master, Yang Jian began, but was interrupted before he could finish. "Let's go back." Guan turned and left, with Yang Jian quickly following. At the end of summer, Guan rode the blood prison Great Saint back from Tianya Valley. Along the way, The blood prison great saint kept cursing 3 monkey demons, and even begged Guan to release some of his cultivation, at least to the core formation realm. No rush, it's good for tempering your character. You are too impetuous, your words can hurt. Without proper tempering, you will bring calamity upon yourself sooner or later. Guan said nonchalantly, holding a peculiar book in his hand that Luohan had obtained from Li Xiandao. According to Luohan, this book was comparable to the Green Hero Travelogue. Indeed, the Three Dynasty land had many literary talents, and there were always those who could write better than Xian Tianyi. This book was not a travelogue, but a collection of tales about the romance and scandals in the imperial city. The blood prison great saint lost his spirit upon hearing Guan's words. He knew his faults, but once he got into an argument with someone, he couldn't quench his anger without giving them a good beating. Zhou Yu has developed hostility towards you and harbors killing intent. Would you like to perform lifespan detection on him? Zhou Yu, the former venerable pavilion of the Supreme Sect? Guan frowned, wondering why this guy had suddenly developed a killing intent towards him. Could it be related to Wu Ju? The Zhou family had already left the Supreme Sect, causing quite a stir. At least the disciples of the Supreme Sect regarded the Zhou family as traitors, especially given their choice of the Tsangtian sect. To this day, Tsangtian sect was the Supreme Sect's biggest rival. The disciples believed that to become the premier sect in the immortal cultivation world, they must surpass the Tsangtian sect. Guan spread his divine sense across the entire continent, searching for Wu Ju's presence, and quickly found him. Wu Ju was at the border forests of the Taitsong dynasty, in a dilapidated temple. Besides him, there were several other cultivators present, standing off against him. At this moment, Wu Ju frowned deeply, his hands clenched into fists inside his sleeves. Zhou Yu, dressed in a black robe, stood in front of him, exuding authority. The other Zhou family cultivators looked at Wu Ju with disapproval. Wu Ju, our Zhou family has invested a lot of resources in you. Without the Zhou family, you wouldn't be who you are today. Are you really going to forget our kindness? A female cultivator said sternly. Others chimed in, with most of them hinting at threats in their tone. Wu Ju gritted his teeth and said, "The Supreme Sect has also been kind to me. Wouldn't joining the Zhou family be a betrayal of that?" Zhou Yu slowly spoke. "Jur, although the world is peaceful now, more and more ocean cultivators are arriving. The immortal cultivation world will face a catastrophe sooner or later. As far as I know, even the sect leader and supreme elder do not know the true identity of Sword Venerable Fu Dao. If there ever comes a day when Sword Venerable Fu Dao leaves, the supreme sect would be quickly annihilated." Wu Ju firmly responded, "Impossible. Why would the supreme sect alone face destruction? Is the Tsangtian sect absolutely safe? Besides Sword Venerable Fu Dao, there are other great cultivators in the supreme sect. I believe the Supreme Sect is stronger than the Tsangtian sect." In saying this, he was severing ties with Zhou Yu, who now served the Tsangtian sect. Zhou Yu's expression turned ugly, and he said, "Think carefully, betrayal of the Zhou family will make you our enemy. Out of respect for our master-disciple relationship, I can let you go today, but in the future, I will kill you to uphold the Zhou family's reputation. Not only you, but anyone associated with you will die, such as your only brother in the Supreme Sect, Guan. Besides Guan, all your friends in the main city of the sect will also die." Zhou Yu truly did not want to let Wu Ju go, as Wu Ju's perception was too formidable. He believed Wu Ju could rival in Hao. The Tsangtian sect had no talent comparable to in Hao. Moreover, Wu Ju had no background and was alone. In the future he could marry into the Zhou family, continuing the lineage of exceptional talent. Upon hearing this, Wu Ju's expression turned grim. He tried to keep calm, took a deep breath, and asked, "Since when did you start investigating me?" When Zhou Yu mentioned Guan, Wu Ju panicked. So, the Zhou family still had spies within the Supreme Sect. Zhou Yu said calmly, "From the day you became my disciple, I understood all your relationships. It's not too late to turn back now. You can even bring those you care about into the Tsangtian sect in the future." This time, he didn't mention Guan, because he couldn't draw in Guan, knowing Guan was actually Panin and close to LV Baitian. The thought that Guan could influence Wu Ju meant that LV Batian might be able to win over Wu Ju, inflaming his killing intent. Why should LV Batian have both An Hao and Wu Ju, these two peerless talents? Wu Ju fell into a struggle. If the Zhou family came only for him, he wouldn't be afraid. But since it involved Guan, he had to hesitate. His talent and perception were top-notch, and he believed he could become a world-shaking force. But he was still young and needed time to grow. The Zhou family, in his eyes, was a colossal existence, one he couldn't challenge alone. The Zhou family still had spies within the Supreme Sect. He couldn't keep an eye on Guan all the time. What if one day a Zhou family spy attacked Guan? He couldn't bear to imagine such a scenario. Damn it! Wu Ju clenched his fists, staring at Zhou Yu with eyes ablaze. Zhou Yu sighed and said, "Disciple actually, eh?" Boom! A sudden thunderbolt struck down with a speed that left Wu Ju and the others no time to react, hitting Zhou Yu and sending everyone flying from the blast. Wu Ju hit the wall but quickly stabilized himself, looking over, and his eyes widened. Zhou Yu had vanished. The spot where he stood was charred black and smoking. The other Zhou family cultivators were wide-eyed, their expressions stunned. "Master." A disciple called out quickly, but received no response. "Not good, there's a Supreme Sect great cultivator nearby." A female disciple shouted and disappeared, followed by the other cultivators, forgetting all about Wu Ju. Wu Ju stood in a daze, hesitated for a moment, and then chose to leave. On the way out, he couldn't help but wonder if Zhou Yu was dead or alive. Who could have struck that thunderbolt? It couldn't have been a coincidence that Zhou Yu was struck by natural lightning, right? Elsewhere, Guan, still riding on the Blood Prison Great Saint's back, felt bored with the mere 92 years of lifespan gained from killing Zhou Yu. I hope the Zhou family knows their place and stops developing hostility towards me. Otherwise, don't blame me for being ruthless, Guan thought silently. While he continued to choose a low-profile approach to cultivation, he was not someone the Zhou family could provoke. Fortunately, in the days that followed, no one from the Zhou family developed hostility towards Guan. No one believed that a newly formed core formation cultivator like Guan could have killed Zhou Yu, a cultivator of the 9th layer of the unification realm out of thin air. The one who killed Zhou Yu must have been at the Mystic Heart realm, or even the Mahayana realm, which was an obvious warning from the Supreme Sect to the Zhou family. In a bright grand hall, thousands of cultivators gathered. The vast palace was expansive, with a hallway over 100 feet wide and rows of transmission array platforms on either side, with cultivators constantly teleporting in. And Hao stood in place, curiously looking around at everyone. I heard that this entrance exam involves Li Ye from Divine Exotic City. Divine Exotic City? Could it be that Immortal Path Supreme Treasure? Yes, that Li Ye is indeed lucky. Who knows how powerful he is with the Immortal Path Supreme Treasure? I hope he can't use the Immortal Path Supreme Treasure. How could we compete against that? Without using the Immortal Path Supreme Treasure, he's just a minor cultivator from the barbarian continent, nothing noteworthy. And Hao listened to the disciples' discussions around him, filled with mixed emotions. The influence of the Immortal Path Supreme Treasure was enormous, and Li Ya's name had reached the Star Sea congregations, making the new disciples who were about to enter the sect hostile towards him. Just as he was thinking, a voice called out, "And Hao, long time no see. This time, it's my turn to win." And Hao turned his head to see two men walking towards him, one of whom exuded demon energy. It was Li Ye and Zhang Buku. Li Ye appeared confident, eyes fixed on An Hao, while Zhang Buku looked full of curiosity. Chapter 240. Sworn to protect. Looking at Li Ye, who was full of fighting spirit, and Hao remained unmoved. If it had been before, he might have expected to spar with Li Ye, but now his mind was occupied only with that junior brother he had never met. Li Ye possessed the Immortal Path Supreme Treasure, and was no longer the same as before, and Hao naturally did not consider himself a match for Li Ye. However, excluding the Immortal Path Supreme Treasure, and Hao truly did not think Li Ye was qualified to be his opponent. Li Ye thought he was timid, so he said, "Don't worry. When I spar with you, I won't use that treasure. But if it's against others, I won't hold back at all, and it'll show off our Supreme Sect's might." Zhang Buku stood beside them and snorted. I don't mind if you use that supreme treasure. In fact, I want to test its sharpness. And Hao looked at Zhang Buku. He had met Zhang Buku before, at a time when Zhang Buku and Liya were already inseparable, though they had not yet become acquainted. He found Zhang Buku very interesting, and could feel the immense strength of his qi blood. In terms of real strength, he was certainly stronger than Liya. What's your name? And Hao asked Zhang Buku, staring at him. Zhang Buku replied, My name is Zhang Buku. I'm Liya's brother. Liya's mouth twitched, but he did not refute. And Hao nodded and then said nothing more, turning around. Liya became interested, stepped forward and said, The three of us come from the Supreme Sect and have joined the Star Sea congregations at the same time. Regardless of victories or defeats in the future. How about mutual support? And Hao nodded without objection. In his heart, the Supreme Sect held a high position. Helping fellow disciples was only natural to him. Liya and Zhang Buku stepped forward and stayed beside Hao, starting to chat and share their past experiences. And Hao initially didn't care, but as he listened, he became captivated by their experiences. Were these two so eager for battle? Very soon, Zhang Buku and Liya started arguing, each blaming the other. And Hao suddenly felt a bit envious of them, as they could rely on each other no matter where they went. Thinking of his junior sister, an Xian, and Hao couldn't help but sigh. Even he felt that the heavens were unfair. While Liya and the others wandered in the Star Sea congregations, far away at the Supreme Sect, Guan and his disciples lived their lives as usual for 10 years. 10 years passed in a flash. Guan's age reached 139. That summer, the Heaven Ranking Tournament, hosted by the Supreme Sect, was about to begin, plunging the Supreme Sect into an unprecedented state of prosperity. In the Third Medicine Valley, within a pavilion, Guan looked at his attribute panel. His lifespan had recovered to 8 million years, and he was secretly satisfied. When he broke through to the carefree primordial immortal, the lifespan barrier alone cost him nearly 1 million years of life. In 10 years, he had gained more than 4 million years of life, which was quite stable. Next, Guan planned to aim for 100 million years of life, at which point he would comprehensively enhance his attribute panel before breaking through to higher realms. Although it seemed far off to gain a 100 million year lifespan in just 10 years, Guan was not anxious. He still had a trump card, which was the Outer World Cave Heaven. The 7th order medicinal herbs in the Outer World Cave Heaven couldn't mature in just a few decades, and every month, Guan brought in high-rank seeds. What Guan was currently thinking about was collecting an Immortal Path Spirit Tree. Last year, during a private auction held by Sage Tang Hai, an Immortal Path Spirit Tree appeared, but unfortunately, its price skyrocketed. Guan could not afford it due to his regular purchases of high-rank medical herbs. The other party was a great cultivator from the Star Sea congregations with deep pockets and an astonishing background. Guan had not resorted to robbing for a single tree. There was no need to make enemies, as an Immortal Path Spirit Tree would not gain him 1 million year lifespan at once. Moreover, at that time, the Supreme Sect and the Star Sea congregations were on good terms. His disciple, Hao, was also comfortably staying in the Star Sea congregations. There would be another chance in the future. Seizing this Heaven Ranking Tournament, Guan planned to amass wealth. He was looking forward to the upcoming excitement. He stood up, preparing to head for the Mystic Valley, as an acquaintance had returned. After coming downstairs, Guan called over Yang Jian, then rode with the Blood Prison Great Saint to the Mystic Valley through teleportation. The disciples of the Mystic Valley had all seen the Blood Prison Great Saint and Yang Jian over the years, so they knew of their relationship with Guan. Guan did not go upstairs, but began patrolling the gardens in the valley, with Yang Jian and the Blood Prison Great Saint following. After 10 years, the 32-year-old Yang Jian had already reached the 2nd layer of the core formation realm. At such an age, with such cultivation, he was among the top-tier talents of the time. Considering that Yang Jian, at the age of 20, was only at the 3rd layer of Qi cultivation realm, his talent was immeasurable. Yang Jian still concealed his cultivation, appearing to be at the 7th layer of Qi cultivation realm. Yang Jian, who practiced the all things form and energy art and the heaven and earth primordial skill, had an extremely powerful chi blood. Guan judged that cultivators at the nascent soul realm couldn't withstand his strength. With Gu An's teaching, Yang Jian had grown more steady, neither arrogant nor impetuous, showing the demeanor of a true disciple. I heard the Taoist lord of the Tsangtian sect has arrived. Yang Jian chatted with the Blood Prison Great Saint about the Heaven Ranking Tournament. The Blood Prison Great Saint was also very interested, and the two only talked about others, not their own cultivation, a habit developed under Gu An's long-term instructions. After a while, a figure flew from the distant sky. It was Liya. Yang Jian turned his head to look, curiosity showing in his eyes. What a powerful aura! Liya came on his sword, like an immortal descending from the sky. After sheathing his sword, he quickly walked to the edge of the garden and greeted Guan. Guan smiled and said, "Senior brother Li, what brings you here? Wait for me for a moment." Liya nodded, his gaze inadvertently falling on Yang Jian. Although Yang Jian's cultivation was low, his demeanor was extraordinary. What is this person's relationship with junior brother Gu? Liya thought to himself. After a while, Guan handed over medicinal herbs to a servant disciple, then led Yang Jian towards Liya. He introduced Yang Jian to Liya, asking Yang Jian to greet him. Yang Jian greets Uncle Master. Yang Jian clasped his fists, neither humble nor overbearing. Although Liya's aura was strong, it couldn't compare to Guan. If Guan hadn't concealed his cultivation, the two wouldn't be considered fellow disciples. Liya, hearing this, curiously asked, "Is it the Yang Jian from the Investiture of the Gods?" Yang Jian nodded and said, "I loved reading the Investiture of the Gods since I was a child, and I changed my name to symbolize my aspiration after joining the sect." Liya smiled, then took out a treasure sword from his storage bag and gave it to Yang Jian. Yang Jian looked at Guan, and only after seeing Guan nod did he accept it. Liya pulled Guan towards the pavilion, while Guan beckoned Yang Jian to follow, causing Liya to hesitate. "Jianer is my truly accepted disciple, whom I've taught everything I know. Let him follow us and broaden his horizons," Guan said with a smile. Liya, hearing this, took another look at Yang Jian. He understood Gu An's implied meaning. "I see. If you ever encounter trouble while adventuring out there, you can always come to me, your Uncle Master," Liya said with an air of spirit, to which Yang Jian quickly expressed his gratitude. Guan found it amusing. Liya had guessed his intention correctly, but got the relationship wrong. He wasn't setting Yang Jian up with a backer, but the other way around. After the three went upstairs, Liya began recounting his experiences within the Star Sea congregations. He had already become a true disciple of the Star Sea congregations, although his cultivation was the lowest among them, relying on the divine exotic city. Although Yang Jian had joined later, he had heard of the divine exotic city. Unexpectedly, the supreme sect cultivator who seized the divine exotic city years ago turned out to be his Uncle Master. He suddenly suspected that Liya had obtained the divine exotic city with help from his master. "By the way, I heard there was an internal assessment in the Star Sea congregations. Did you participate?" Guan suddenly asked. Liya's expression instantly became unnatural. "I did, and I got quite a good ranking, entering the top 100. I became a true disciple based on my own strength." Guan didn't believe it. Over the years, Liya had used the power of the divine exotic city quite often. "I heard and Hao also participated. What was his ranking?" Guan continued to ask. Liya's expression became even more awkward. Yang Jian's eyes lit up, and he asked, "Master, are you talking about the number 1 genius of the Supreme Sect, and Hao?" "That's right, it's him." Yang Jian fell into contemplation. Liya ambiguously said, "His ranking was also good. Without using the divine exotic city, I indeed couldn't match him." Guan curiously asked, "What do you mean? Did you two meet again?" Liya felt aggrieved. Was junior brother Gu doing this on purpose? Trying to embarrass me in front of a junior? He did indeed run into an Hao. He had subdued many great cultivators with the divine exotic city. But when facing an Hao for the sake of fairness, he didn't use the divine exotic city, and ended up disastrously defeated. This incident became widely known inside the Star Sea congregations, and in how made a name for himself by stepping on him, leaving him very frustrated. Although frustrated, he did not regret it. And how had always been his goal to chase. He wanted to know how far apart their real strengths were. Guan chuckled, knowing his disciple had defeated Li Ya. He felt a sense of satisfaction. This kind of attitude was not good. Guan changed the topic, talking about the heaven ranking tournament. Li Ya said the reason he came back was that the Supreme Sect had sent a message, asking him to return. The Supreme Sect needed the power of the divine exotic city to deal with great cultivators from overseas. After all, this was the first heaven-ranking tournament hosted by the Supreme Sect. LV Batian hoped to maintain the title of number 1 in the world, even if the opponents were cultivators from Holy Lands or great cultivators from overseas. Guan felt LV Batian was not being fair, but he couldn't criticize. Dharma treasures were part of a cultivator's strength. Besides him, who on the immortal path didn't rely on Dharma treasures in combat? Senior Brotherly, what do you think of my disciple? 500 years from now, I'll have him participate in the heaven-ranking tournament. Maybe he will even encounter you then, Guan said with a smile. Li Ya glanced at Yang Jian and said, his cultivation is a bit low. To compete for the number 1 position in the world, he still needs a big opportunity. Yang Jian remained silent, standing honestly aside. Guan laughed and said, in any case, I believe my disciple has great chi fortune. He will eventually astonish the world. Although I'm uncertain if he'll live to see that day. I hope you will support each other on the immortal cultivation path, advancing and retreating together. After all, this path requires more than just oneself. These words made Li Ya emotional. He knew junior brother Gus' talent was mediocre, so he certainly couldn't vie for longevity like him. Li Ya earnestly said, rest assured, your disciple is my disciple. As long as I am alive, I will protect him with my life. Anyone who dares to harm him must step over my dead body first. Yang Jian looked at Li Ya, his eyes showing a change. Chapter 241. Sword Venerable Fu Dao, will you battle me? Li Ya returned this time and brought many gifts for Guan, including immortal cultivation medicinal herbs and overseas magic artifacts. When Guan tried to make some polite conversation, Li Ya didn't bother with the pleasantries and left directly through the window, leaving Guan in silence. Yang Jian also marveled at what a peculiar person this uncle master was. Although Li Ya seemed unreliable, Yang Jian still held a good opinion of his actions and words. Just based on Li Ya's previous declaration that he would protect him to the death, Yang Jian acknowledged him as his uncle master. After staying in Mystic Valley for a while, Guan took Yang Jian and Blood Prison Great Saint to the Outer Gate City. With the approaching grand tournament, cultivators frequently flew across the sky, not just from Supreme Sect, but from all over the world. No matter the outcome of the grand tournament, Supreme Sect was set to gain substantial benefits this time, and Guan was eager to see how much profit Supreme Sect would share with Sword Venerable Fu Dao. Days passed by. 5 days later, though the weather was hot, the inner and outer gate city was crowded due to the imminent start of the grand tournament. In front of the South City Gate, countless cultivators gathered, forming a vast sea of humans, their heads bobbing, creating a spectacular scene. Following their gaze, in the sky stood an array platform surrounded by 72 large flags, with a diameter over 100 miles. Its base emitting a faint golden light, forming a golden platform that blotted out the sky when looked at from below. This array, known as the Luotian Floating City Battle Array, was purchased by Supreme Sect from Star Sea congregations, specifically for great cultivators to compete in combat, at a huge cost. Maintaining this array required massive amounts of spiritual energy. It was said that Supreme Sect had already channeled the spiritual energies from their underground spirit lineages into the array. Every city and medicine valley within Supreme Sect had formations projecting the scene of the Luotian Floating City Battle Array. These transmission formations were not very expensive, so even Mystic Valley had an array set up by Supreme Sect, allowing all disciples in the valley to watch the match. In the Third Medicine Valley, over 900 disciples gathered in the pavilion area, some meditating on the ground, some sitting on benches, looking up at the light screen in the sky, waiting for the grand tournament to begin. Before the combat even started, the disciples were already excitedly discussing. Guan sat by a stone table, savoring pastries. Yang Jian, an ex-Xian Xiaochuan, and Yu Yingying sat at the same table, also discussing the grand tournament. The names of each great cultivator were mentioned from their mouths. Over the past decade, many oceanic great cultivators had established their fame in the three dynasties, making it uncertain who would claim the title of the world's number one. These ocean cultivators temporarily stayed in the three dynasties region, leaving many opportunities behind, promoting the development of the immortal cultivation world, and establishing a reputation for virtue and greatness. Yu Yingying mentioned an ocean great cultivator named Yellow-Robed Immortal Lord. Yellow-Robed Immortal Lord claimed to be the reincarnation of an immortal, possessing vast divine skills. The Star Sea congregations tried to recruit him but were refused. His whereabouts were mysterious, like a dragon glimpsed but never seen fully. He liked to teach beings with mediocre talents, earning admiration. She believed Yellow-Robed Immortal Lord could claim the first position in the grand tournament. Xiaochuan couldn't help but say, "Why are these ocean great cultivators meddling in the grand tournament? Isn't this bullying?" Yu Yingying replied, "Although the three dynasties region is weak, the seven stars spirit realm in the mainland is not. As long as cultivators from the seven stars spirit realm participate, other great cultivators will be drawn in, all wanting to establish their fame by stepping over the seven stars spirit realm. Of course, there might be undercurrents I'm unaware of. This grand tournament is indeed unusual with so many great cultivators joining." An ex-Xian nodded, saying, "It said there are 500 participants, with half coming from overseas. The three dynasties cultivators only make up a third. Besides Liya, the weakest among them is in the mystic heart realm. Many withdrew after seeing the participant list, leading to the current situation." Yang Jian remained silent, gazing at the illusion in the sky with yearning in his eyes. The title of the world's number one was certainly mesmerizing. Guan didn't join their discussion. He knew the level of participants in the grand tournament better than anyone. Currently, 5 loose immortals had gathered within Supreme Sect. The number of Nirvana realm cultivators reached 17, and there were over 100 Mahayana realm cultivators. If nothing unexpected happened, sects within the three dynasties couldn't hope to claim the first position in the grand tournament, or even make it into the top 20. The only hope lay with the supernatural cities Liya. Moreover, Guan sensed a wandering immortal's presence, hidden in the mountains outside Supreme Sect, purpose unknown. This grand tournament was no longer just a test among the immortal cultivation world of the three dynasties. Guan wasn't worried though. If Supreme Sect faced destruction, he would intervene. If they weren't in danger, he wouldn't act even if Supreme Sect lost. One must accept their inferiority. Until noon, the Luotian floating city battle array finally changed. The 72 large flags trembled, bursting with golden light, quickly forming a majestic palace, vast and transparent, allowing the outside world to see inside. Today, the first grand tournament of Supreme Sect will begin. I am LV Batian, the Supreme Sect leader, here to announce the rules of the grand tournament. It's all about winning. No killing. LV Batian's voice spread throughout Supreme Sect through the array light screens, silencing the hustle and bustle instantly. Guan turned his head, asking an ex-Xian to bring over a few more plates of pastries, and an ex-Xian immediately obeyed. After a while, LV Batian finished explaining the rules of the grand tournament, and began announcing the first match. The first match today will be between the Tsangtian sect. Before LV Batian finished his words, a vast pressure engulfed Supreme Sect, interrupting him. Wait a moment. An aged voice echoed between heaven and earth, catching countless people off guard. Was someone going to interfere with the grand tournament? Yang Jian and the others beside Guan also tensed up. Before the grand tournament begins, could Sword Venerable Fudao have a match with me? I am Bai Luo, the island master of Jinghai Bai Luo Island, known as Sage Bai Luo. The aged voice's words caused a tremendous uproar within Supreme Sect. Someone dared to challenge Sword Venerable Fudao. Yu Yingying frowned, saying, Sage Bai Luo? How is he involved? Did he align with someone? Xiaochuan couldn't help but ask. What realm is Sage Bai Luo in? Is he also an immortal? He is an immortal. As for his specific cultivation level, I'm not sure. He's beyond my reach. I just heard rumors, Yu Yingying replied. Meanwhile, a figure appeared within the Luotian floating city battle array, prompting countless people to look up. Through the array light screens, they saw the figure. Clad in a green robe, the figure stood tall, holding a long staff. His white hair was coiled under a jade crown, his face old and stern, with green flames burning atop the staff, resembling coiling dragons and serpents, emitting a mysterious aura. Sage Bai Luo. An overwhelming ancient aura descends upon him, causing every cultivator who witnessed his true form to feel an innate sense of awe, akin to mortals gazing at the vast sky, instinctively revering heaven. In the outer gate city, on the heavenly repair platform, Supreme Sect's high-ranking officials gathered. LV Baitian, Jihantian, and Xian Quan were all present. Zhua Yijian stood beside the heaven-cutting axe, frowning, his gaze towards Sage Bai Luo filled with hostility. For such a grand occasion, someone jumped out to challenge Sword Venerable Fudao, appearing to harbor ill intentions. However, he wasn't worried, even somewhat excited. Sword Venerable Fudao had not taken action for many years. Although his legend remained, overseas cultivators were unclear about his actual strength. LV Baitian looked up at the Luotian floating city battle array, frowning and snorting coldly. As expected, someone is looking for trouble. I just don't know which force sent him. If Sword Venerable Fudao were defeated or refused to fight, Supreme Sect's control over the grand tournament would weaken sharply, potentially leading to the tournament's collapse and a crisis of annihilation for Supreme Sect. Gu Zong looked at LV Baitian, whispering, "Sect leader, this person isn't on the participant list." LV Baitian nodded, replying calmly, "Then let's wait and see. It's time for the overseas cultivators to witness his power." Other high-ranking officials in Supreme Sect also showed anticipation. Sword Venerable Fudao was not only invincible in the hearts of Supreme Sect's disciples, but also to these high-ranking cultivators. He quelled internal strife, slew demon ancestors, killed immortals, vanquished evil demons, and more. Sword Venerable Fudao's might wasn't just talk, it was established through battles witnessed by Supreme Sect's disciples. In the Third Medicine Valley, just by listening to the disciples' discussions, Guan realized he couldn't avoid taking action. So be it, it had been a long time since he showcased his swordsmanship. Guan leaned against the stone table, swirling his wine cup with one hand, a slight smile playing at the corner of his mouth. Yang Jian, who had been observing his master, noticed the change in his master's expression, and felt a shock in his heart. Could it be that Sword Venerable Fudao was his master? Having learned about Sword Venerable Fudao's legendary tales over the years, Yang Jian had often speculated about this. Could a sect hide two mysterious powerhouses surpassing all disciples? Sword Venerable Fudao, could it be that you dare not show yourself? Or do you look down upon someone from a remote island like me? Sage Bai Luo's voice rang out again, majestic and resounding. Hearing his mocking words, Supreme Sect's disciples were enraged, their anger surpassing their innate reverence. They began hoping that Sword Venerable Fudao would take action and teach this oceanic rogue a good lesson. Rumble. Suddenly, the sky's weather changed, clouds churned, white clouds turned black, and the world darkened, prompting countless people to look up. Inside the Luotian floating city battle array, Sage Bai Luo also looked up, seeing the rolling thunderclouds. He snorted, shaking his long staff, and his vast mana erupted, forming two azure dragons coiling within the array palace. Their bodies spanned 100 miles, enough to silence all beings. The two azure dragons slowly lifted their heads, roaring towards the sky, their dragon cries echoing endlessly. It is said that Sword Venerable Fudao's swordsmanship is unparalleled in the world. Today, let's see if you can break my array. Sage Bai Luo's voice echoed again. He waved his sleeve, sending countless magic artifacts into the air between the two azure dragons. Wind and fire swirled, entangling the dragons, causing them to grow rapidly, their heads piercing the top of the Luotian floating city battle array. At that moment, the thunderclouds suddenly parted, revealing a vast starry sea in the sky. All creatures' eyes reflected the resplendent starry sea, magnificent and fantastical. Chapter 242. The sword intent that silences heaven and earth. The moment the vast star-suppressing heaven-boundless sword was unleashed, a majestic panorama of the starry sea unfolded above the sky, occupying the vision of all cultivators within the supreme sect. When the demon ancestor had previously attacked the northern territory, this sword array had also appeared, but only the frontline cultivators had seen it. Now 90% of the cultivators within the supreme sect were seeing this sword array for the first time, and they were all astounded. Especially the disciples who had joined the supreme sect in the past few decades. They were utterly stupefied. A sword array capable of changing the heavens. How many years of cultivation would it take to reach such a level? Within the Luotian floating city battle array, Sage Bai Luo was locked in by the sword intent of the vast star-suppressing heaven-boundless sword. The moment the infinite starry sea appeared, he felt his mana solidify within him. A suppression so intense that it made his heart pound. Sage Bai Luo's face paled, regret creeping into his heart. He had thought that Sword Venerable Fudao was merely a wandering immortal. After all, Sword Venerable Fudao had previously only slain loose immortals. Despite knowing he might not be a match for Fudao, he believed he could at least gauge his opponent's strength. Now, feeling the sword intent of Fudao, he was reminded of the insignificance he felt a million years ago. The gap between them was immense. At least a full major realm apart. He was a wandering immortal, so Sword Venerable Fudao must be. Heaven and earth. Sage Bai Luo muttered through gritted teeth. This time he did not call out to heaven and earth, knowing he couldn't escape and had no choice but to fight to the bitter end. After a brief moment of silence, the Supreme Sect exploded in an uproar. Countless disciples of the Supreme Sect raised their arms and cheered. The high-level cultivators on the heavenly repair platform were equally excited, with Zuaijian beside the heaven-cutting axe, even kneeling down in a posture of devout worship. In the Third Medicine Valley, over 900 disciples were similarly excited, shouting the name of Sword Venerable Fudao. Yu Yingying saw Sword Venerable Fudao in action for the first time, her small mouth agape with an expression of incredulity. Yang Jian was also frightened. What kind of sword array was this? Too exaggerated. He couldn't help but look at Guan, who also wore a shocked expression. Could Sword Venerable Fudao not be his master? Indeed, he had not sensed his master's mana dissipating. Pay close attention and see how much you can comprehend. Gu An's voice suddenly reached Yang Jian's ears, making him widen his eyes in astonishment. Was his master really Sword Venerable Fudao? This sword array. How did he accomplish it? He didn't see him make a move. Already having formed his core, Yang Jian felt he had a deep understanding of immortal cultivation, but today, his master's technique overturned his comprehension. The vast star-suppressing heaven-boundless sword was high above, far from the Third Medicine Valley. No one would have thought that Sword Venerable Fudao was hiding here. Yang Jian had thought that Sword Venerable Fudao was up in that vast starry sea, overlooking all beings. At that moment, the stars in the vast sea burst into light, and one by one, stars began to fall, more and more densely packed, with a momentum that suggested the sky was collapsing, bringing the clamor of heaven and earth to a sudden halt. All beings looked up, their eyes wide and silent, as if witnessing an immortal phenomenon. Countless stars fell, bursting with sword chi, causing the trees of the mountains and rivers to sway violently, and dust to be swept away into the distance. Within the inner sect city, Liya stayed in a courtyard, looking up at the vast star-suppressing heaven-boundless sword, secretly alarmed. Could the Taitsong divine shocking sword reach such a degree? He turned his head to look at the divine exotic immortal spirit on his shoulder and asked, could divine exotic city withstand this sword with its power? Withstand? I almost got killed by him and you're asking me that? The divine exotic immortal spirit, feeling the sword intent from the sky, could confirm that Sword Venerable Fudao was indeed his master. He replied, not sure. His voice, full of childishness, contrasted sharply with his inner thoughts. Liya continued watching the light screen in the sky, wanting to see if Sage Bai Luo could withstand a single strike from Sword Venerable Fudao. Facing the endless stream of star sword energy, Sage Bailuo shouted angrily, raising his staff as surging mana flowed into two azure dragons, which were wreathed in fierce flames and strong winds as they soared into the sky. The dragon's roar exploded. Countless people held their breath. Numerous streams of star sword energy fell, colliding with the dragons in midair. The gigantic azure dragons, ridge-like, were blocked abruptly. Starting from the dragon's head, they were shattered one after another, dissolving into azure winds sweeping across the world. In an instant, the two azure dragons were obliterated by the star sword energy. The power of the sword chi was unstoppable. Sage Bailuo was illuminated by the sword light, his eyes widened, filled with fear. As the relentless star sword energy poured into the Luotian floating city battle array, a resplendent sword light erupted, causing heaven and earth to lose color, and countless beings to close their eyes. Blinded, only the sound of the wind could be heard. Several breaths later, cultivators gradually regained their vision. As more and more people opened their eyes, when they saw the scene within the light screen in the sky, their hearts raced. The Luotian floating city battle array remained, but its golden light at the base fluctuated violently, on the verge of dispersing, while Sage Bailuo, kneeling inside, maintained a raised staff stance. The staff in his hands was only half remaining, smoldering, and he was covered in blood, his hair disheveled and utterly battered. Sage Bailuo trembled all over, his bulging eyes bloodshot. The infinite starry panorama was slowly dissipating, signaling the end of the battle. Sage Bailuo's heart filled with endless fear. Luckily, he had sought battle before the heavenly ranking tournament. Otherwise, at any other time, he might have perished. He couldn't even withstand a single move from Sword Venerable Fudao. Gritting his teeth, he wobbled to his feet, turning and flying towards the horizon, rapidly escaping the Luotian floating city battle array and disappearing to the edge of the sky. When he came, he was wildly boastful, but when he left, he was a defeated silence. Heaven and earth erupted in thunderous cheers. So strong. This is the strength of Sword Venerable Fudao? That Sage Bailuo was so arrogant before. Who would have thought he'd be defeated so completely? If the sect leader hadn't set the rules, I bet he'd be dead. No kidding, once Sword Venerable Fudao makes a move, who can survive? It's said the vice sect leader survived. Could he also be an immortal? Disciples of the Supreme Sect jeered at Sage Bailuo, and praised the overwhelming power of Sword Venerable Fudao. Even disciples from other sects were excited, though the great cultivators preparing for the heavenly ranking tournament grew tense. After this battle, they dared not act recklessly. The sword intent just now had snuffed out any fighting spirit. The morale of the Supreme Sect soared, the sect bustling as if celebrating the new year. Once the sword intent illusion above the sky completely disappeared, the Luotian floating city battle array also returned to its full state. The first match of the heavenly ranking tournament. Zhou of Heaven Sect versus Gu Xian of the Supreme Sect. LV Baishan's voice rang out again, this time brimming with dominance, as if he were Sword Venerable Fudao himself. Following his words, Zhou and Gu Xian flew into the array. Zhou's face was complicated, while Gu Xian looked spirited. They exchanged a few words, judging by the mouth movements. It seemed Gu Xian was mocking the Zhou family's choice. In the Third Medicine Valley, Guan stood up and said, "You all keep watching, I'll go fetch something from inside." An Xian and Xiaochuan nodded, while Yu Yingying remained immersed in the grandeur of Sword Venerable Fudao. Yang Jian watched Gu An's departing figure, his mind speculating. He didn't bother thinking about the fate of Sage Bailuo. Instead, he began to recall the magnificence of the vast star-suppressing heaven-boundless sword. He had thought that executing Sword Dao required a sword, but his master had neither drawn a sword nor moved an inch earlier. Yet a sword array was created by mere thought? Unbelievable. Yang Jian felt a surge of hot blood in his chest. One day, he too would create such divine skills. Covered in blood, Sage Bailuo swiftly flew off the continent, unable to calm his heart, fearing that Sword Venerable Fudao might pursue him. At the same time, his eyes were filled with rage. Damn the 7-star spirit realm for such inaccurate intelligence. No wonder they sent me as cannon fodder, despicable. Sage Bai Luo thought hatefully as he cursed the 7-star spirit realm. He took out an elixir and quickly swallowed it, speeding up his flight. As he passed an island, a hand suddenly landed on his shoulder. His face changed dramatically, and before he could react, an immense force he had never felt before pressed down, causing his body to plummet rapidly. Boom! Dust erupted from the forest in the depths of the island, causing the entire island to quake, with waves surging on the surrounding sea. The dust cleared, trees lay toppled, and a massive crater appeared. Under the sunlight, Sage Bai Luo knelt within the crater, a dark purple demonic hand on his shoulder. Looking back, it was Guan in the 9 extremes yin-yang body state. Sage Bai Luo was terrified, struggling to look back. His pupils dilated in shock. He couldn't stand up, nor could his primordial spirit emerge. At that moment he was like a mere mortal, powerless to resist. His terror peaked, and despair cloaked his heart. Sword Venerable. Sage Bai Luo stuttered, but before he could finish, a terrifying divine sense surged into his mind, causing his eyes to lose their luster. The sea breeze blew, scattering the nearby dust and fluttering Sage Bai Luo's tattered robes. Guan used the soul-capturing skill to search Sage Bai Luo's memories. Not long after, he retracted his divine sense, his right palm igniting with 3 pure one's true fire, swiftly enveloping Sage Bai Luo. Even though Sage Bai Luo was just a tool, daring to provoke him meant death. If Guan had not been a match for Sage Bai Luo today, he would have been the one to die. In a saying from his past life, showing mercy to one's enemy is being cruel to oneself. Guan conveniently took Sage Bai Luo's storage ring, but his mind dwelled on the 7-star spirit realm. The force behind Sage Bai Luo's probing of Sword Venerable Fudao was indeed the 7-star spirit realm. However, in Sage Bai Luo's memories, there was no encounter with an actual cultivator of the 7-star spirit realm, only a ghost meeting him for the discussion. As long as Sage Bai Luo agreed, after the mission, the 7-star spirit realm would offer him an opportunity to listen to Dao lectures. What specific Dao? The memories didn't specify, but judging by Sage Bai Luo's excitement, it must be extraordinary. Could it be the lectures of the heaven and earth flying immortal? Could there be a carefree primordial immortal in the 7-star spirit realm? Guan fell into contemplation. Regardless, after today, the 7-star spirit realm would be fully targeting Sword Venerable Fudao. It was necessary to probe the depths of the 7-star spirit realm. If there was no carefree primordial immortal, it must be eradicated. Guan's heart harbored killing intent. Without exterminating the 7-star spirit realm, he wouldn't feel at peace. Chapter 243 The Pressure from Sword Venerable Fudao in the Third Medicine Valley. Guan went downstairs and returned to the stone table, where he watched the grand battle of the Tianbang tournament with the disciples. Killing Sage Bai Luo earned Guan a lifespan of more than 7,000 years, which wasn't too bad. Sage Bai Luo was over 70,000 years old. He hadn't broken through a minor realm in over 10,000 years, so he had been searching for immortality opportunities for many years. The 7-star spirit realm targeted his needs to lure him into action. Guan did not sympathize with Sage Bai Luo. People always have to take responsibility for their choices. What he was considering now was how to deal with the 7-star spirit realm. If the 7-star spirit realm hadn't plotted against him, he might not have confronted them. After all, delaying time was more beneficial to him. The first match of the Tianbang tournament had not yet ended. It was difficult for great cultivators of the same realm to determine a winner. Gu Xian and Zhou Zhu both had mystic heart realm cultivation, and evidently had a real grudge, using all their skills to the fullest, providing a feast for the spectators' eyes. It is said that the Zhou family has withdrawn all its disciples from the Supreme Sect, while the Gu family has done the opposite, fully supporting the Supreme Sect. Both sides are clashing, likely hiding a battle of pride. With Sword Venerable Fudao around, how could the Zhou family be so short-sighted? Who knows what kind of bewitching potion that Songtian sect gave the Zhou family? It is said that until now Sword Venerable Fudao has not attacked other sects, so those sects might hold on to illusions, thinking they have a chance to win him over. The combat between mystic heart realm cultivators is already so fierce. I cannot imagine what the battle between Mahayana realm cultivators would be like. The Supreme Sect was abuzz with discussions about the Tianbang combats, and the grudges between the Zhou family and the Supreme Sect spread throughout cities and towns. An Xian and Xiaochuan, who were beside Guan, were discussing this matter. Yu Yingying from the Star Sea congregations ridiculed the Zhou family for their stupidity in believing that Songtian sect's nonsense. In her view, the only reason Sword Venerable Fu Dao stayed at the Supreme Sect was due to a sense of affinity. The combined resources of the Three Morning Land couldn't possibly entice him. Yang Jian was also pondering what charm the Supreme Sect had to keep his master there. The first match of the Tianbang tournament concluded with Gu Xian's victory. As the host, the Supreme Sect gained considerable prestige. Even the overseas cultivators had to change their views on them. Though the foundations of the Supreme Sect were still weak, the sect's momentum was now unstoppable. The second match was between overseas cultivators. Guan suspected that LV Baitian manipulated it again, but it didn't matter much, as the Tianbang tournament was a knockout competition. When they lose, they are eliminated. For those aiming to win first place, they only cared about the final victory. Even if other cultivators had opinions about the rankings, they could not afford to lose face in front of the world. This match, a combat between Mahayana realm cultivators, was magnificent, with spells and divine skills displayed in grandeur, causing the bottom of the Luotian floating city battle array to glow with a rainbow of light. The Mahayana realm cultivators' battle lasted nearly 2 ancient hours before a winner emerged. Most spectators did not find it tedious and remained excited. The Tianbang tournament continued day and night. Even at night, there were combats. On the third day, Yilan and Zhenqin came to find Guan to watch the battle together. They had learned that there was a match involving Li Ya today, so they wanted to witness Li Ya's divine skills together. Yilan sat beside Guan, reminiscing about their days in the Mystic Valley. Recalling the past, neither she nor Zhenqin could have imagined reaching today. Whether it was Yilan or Zhenqin, they had thought reaching the Foundation establishment realm in their lifetime would be good enough. But now, with their opportunities, both had achieved divinity transformation. Considering only their age, they were undoubtedly rare geniuses, but they knew they were not true geniuses, so they remained humble and filled with reverence for immortal cultivation. Guan also fell into memories. Being able to help those around him live better lives gave him a great sense of accomplishment. Immortal cultivation should not be pursued without emotion. At least that was how he felt. As noon approached, it was finally Li Ya's turn. When the ancient sect called out Li Ya's name, a deafening cheer erupted throughout the Supreme Sect. The name of Divine Exotic City had long resounded across the world. Although Li Ya's talent wasn't as great as in Hao's, no one underestimated him because of his immortal path supreme treasure. Li Ya's return clearly meant to help the Supreme Sect contend for the first place in the Tianbang tournament. How could the disciples not cheer for him? Listening to the cheers from all around, a smile appeared on Guan's face. 100 years ago, before leaving the Mystic Valley, Li Ya had boasted that he would one day be famous worldwide. Today he achieved his ambition. I hope 1,000 years from now, you will stand at an even higher place and have more people cheering for you. Guan thought as he looked at Li Ya in the sky display. People's characters and pursuits differ, leading them to choose different paths. Guan desired longevity, and before reaching the other shore of longevity, he couldn't comfortably enjoy fame. Li Ya was different. He yearned for freedom and fame, walking a path completely different from Guan's. Guan did not think his path was wrong. After all, not everyone had the ability to steal lifespans like him. If he didn't have that ability, Guan would also have to go on the run, risking everything for opportunities. Guan eagerly anticipated seeing how far Li Ya could go, whether he could transcend heavenly destiny and achieve nirvana. Li Ya's ultimate lifespan had not increased until now. Within the Luotian floating city battle array, Li Ya stood proudly with a divine exotic immortal spirit perched on his shoulder. The small, pitch-black creature bared its teeth and claws at Li Ya's opponent, looking very cute. Li Ya's opponent was an old man in a Taoist robe with third-layer nirvana realm cultivation. At this moment, facing Li Ya, The man's expression was solemn. He silently cursed the supreme sect for their shamelessness. Dealing with Li Ye, even if he won, it would not be a fair victory due to the significant gap in their cultivation levels. But if he lost, he would be utterly embarrassed. Why didn't they arrange a loose immortal opponent for Li Ye, who had an immortal path supreme treasure? Were they using him as a whetstone? The Taoist-robed old man took a deep breath, drew out his Dharma treasure, and prepared for battle. Li Ye said nothing and directly summoned the divine exotic city. The divine exotic city flew out of his body, rapidly expanding and transforming into a phantom that enveloped his figure, continuously occupying space inside the array. The appearance of the divine exotic city caused a clamor throughout the supreme sect. Most cultivators were seeing the divine exotic city for the first time, and they were very excited. With the divine exotic city visible, the battle's outcome was already predictable. Although it was a duel between Li Ye and the Taoist-robed old man, in reality, it was the divine exotic immortal spirit fighting on behalf of Li Ye. However, inside the divine exotic city, Li Ye would also bear some pressure. If he faced a wandering immortal in a prolonged battle, the divine exotic immortal spirit might be undefeated, but Li Ye could be shaken to death. Of course, there were no wandering immortals in the Tianbang tournament. The only wandering immortal had already been slain by Guan. The following battle had the spectators entirely appreciating the power of the divine exotic city. The endless swarms of divine soul demons surged out, their combined aura both awe-inspiring and terrifying. After Li Ye's victory, the atmosphere of the Tianbang tournament reached its peak. Guan saw Shenzhen still sketching the divine exotic city in front of his cave residence. A month passed quickly, and the participants in the Tianbang tournament had been reduced from 500 to 30. Some had a buy-in between, and the remaining 30, besides Li Ye, were at least in the Mahayana realm. Besides Li Ye, the most prominent were Yellow-Robed Immortal Lord and Yin Qitian of the Star Sea congregations. Yin Qitian was at the 9th layer of the loose immortal realm. Only Yellow-Robed Immortal Lord could match his true cultivation level. Late at night, in an estate within the inner sect city, Yin Qitian was sitting cross-legged inside, cultivating energy to recover his mana. He wore a close-fitting black robe embroidered with dragon and tiger patterns, looking very imposing. Suddenly, he heard footsteps and immediately opened his eyes to see a dark purple demonic shadow appear inside the room, startling him to his feet. "Who goes there?" Yin Qitian asked in a deep voice. The other party had managed to reach him without detection. The footsteps were clearly an intentional alert. Someone of such cultivation wouldn't make footsteps while walking. He carefully scrutinized the figure, suddenly realizing something. His expression changed slightly, and he said, "Could it be that you are Sword Venerable Fu Dao?" Gu An's divine sense had already enveloped the estate. No one could spy on them. He spoke. "What is the Star Sea congregation's actual stance toward the 7 stars spirit realm?" Hearing this, Yin Qitian secretly relaxed as the other party had spoken, meaning they could talk. Having witnessed the vast star-suppressing heaven-boundless sword, he didn't consider himself a match for Sword Venerable Fu Dao. Even wandering immortals couldn't take a single move from him. How could he resist? He didn't answer immediately, instead, falling into deep thought. Guan cast a lifespan detection on him. Yin Qitian, Loose Immortal Realm 9th Layer 14590/25000/50,000. With a maximum lifespan of 50,000 years, he seemed to have the potential of a wandering immortal. Guan thought silently and wasn't in a hurry, waiting for Yin Qitian's response. In fact, he didn't need to ask. The Star Sea congregations had long been at war with the 7 stars spirit realm. He was merely following protocol, examining the attitude of the Star Sea congregation's cultivators toward the 7 stars spirit realm. Yin Qitian took a deep breath and said, "To be honest, our grudge with the 7 stars spirit realm has lasted for hundreds of thousands of years, reaching an irreconcilable stage. It won't be long before the Star Sea congregations launch a full-scale attack on the 7 stars spirit realm." He organized his thoughts about the happenings on this continent, feeling that Sword Venerable Fu Dao was against the 7 stars spirit realm. When Xian Tianyi of the Supreme Sect returned to the Star Sea congregations, He had spoken ill of the 7 stars spirit realm everywhere. Guan said, after the Tianbang tournament ends, return to the Star Sea congregations and collect all information on the 7 stars spirit realm for me, especially regarding the cultivation realms of their cultivators. I only want the information. You won't be shortchanged. This is a personal deal between you and me, without involving the Star Sea congregations. You must not mention this to anyone. Hearing this, Yan Qitian was delighted. Was Sword Venerable Fudao going to deal with the 7 stars spirit realm? He quickly agreed, no problem. There's no need for a deal, senior. I'll collect the information for you for free. The 7 stars spirit realm is not only your enemy, but ours as well. But it's best not to inform the Star Sea congregations about this, at least not for now. Understood, senior. Guan immediately disappeared from the spot. Yan Qitian breathed a sigh of relief, feeling immense pressure facing Sword Venerable Fudao. It felt like walking on a knife's edge. Could it be that Sage Bai Luo was invited by the 7 stars spirit realm? Yan Qitian pondered. He had heard of Sage Bai Luo's deeds. This person rarely provoked others. His challenge to Sword Venerable Fudao before the Tianbang tournament was clearly out of enmity. Chapter 244. Are you really in the energy cultivation realm? The struggle for the top 30 in the Heavenly List tournament became even more intense than before. At this stage, opponents of the same realm required a long time to secure victory, unless there was a significant disparity in their minor realms. Days passed by. The number of cultivators coming to the Supreme Sect to watch the tournament grew, and the entire immortal cultivation world was discussing the Heavenly List tournament. Cultivators who displayed their talents in the tournament became famous worldwide, and were revered by countless cultivators. After half a month, 15 cultivators remained in the Heavenly List tournament. Xiao Dai from the Supreme Sect advanced again without contest, successfully entering the top 15, causing much discussion among the cultivators. Everyone could see that the Supreme Sect was protecting Xiao Dai, but his Qiao family came from the 7 stars spirit realm, which made many hesitate to openly question him. Leah also successfully entered the top 15, but his condition was worrisome. The high-intensity combat had continuously inflicted internal injuries on his physical body, and fighting between mortal spirits and immortal spirits also harmed the soul. Everything has its pros and cons. Guan didn't help Leah too much, as he needed Leah to respect the power far beyond his own. Nevertheless, the Supreme Sect had succeeded, as there were no cultivators from the Tsangtian sect in the top 15. Apart from the Supreme Sect, the best rank among the 3 dynasties sects was 29th, held by a Daoist lord of the Tsangtian sect. With 2 cultivators from the Supreme Sect in the top 15, it solidified their position in the immortal cultivation world of the 3 dynasties. Another 10 days passed, and only 8 cultivators remained vying for the top spot in the Heavenly List. The Supreme Sect held 2 places, represented by Li Ye and Xiao Dai, who advanced by default. In the battle of the top 8, Xiao Dai fell in the first match, stopping at the 8th position. Li Ye, relying on Divine Exotic City, advanced to the top 4 but ultimately stopped at 4th place. His chi was exhausted, and he fainted on the battlefield after just summoning the army of Divine Soul Demons. The disciples of the Supreme Sect weren't disappointed, but rather admired Li Ye. Li Ye, barely over 100 years old, shouldered the honor and mission of the entire sect. Reaching 4th place in the Heavenly List tournament was already commendable. In the previous Golden List tournament, Li Ye encountered An Hao early and didn't even make the top 500. This time, winning 3rd place, Guan thought he should have no regrets. As Guan had speculated, the final contenders for the top spot in the Heavenly List were the yellow-robed Immortal Lord and Yan Qitian. Their grand battle lasted 3 days and 3 nights, finally ending with Yan Qitian conceding defeat. The Supreme Sect remained bustling, and the tax revenue from various resource transactions delighted the sect leaders. The first Heavenly List tournament was highly successful. Other sects couldn't easily imitate such grandeur. Only until autumn did the Supreme Sect regain its peace. Before leaving, Li Ye visited Guan. They chatted for 2 ancient hours before Liya departed with grace. This time, he truly became a hero, gaining great renown. In the immortal cultivation world of the 3 dynasties, his fame overshadowed both the yellow-robed immortal lord and Yan Qitian, because he was one of their own and due to his age and legendary experiences. These matters had little to do with Guan. The Heavenly List tournament was just a minor episode for him. What truly pleased him was that the Supreme Sect had obtained the storage bag before the heaven-cutting axe. It was the highest-grade storage bag, containing an immense amount of spirit stones. After calculating, he felt that the Supreme Sect had not deceived him, showing great sincerity. The disappearance of that storage bag also thrilled the higher-ups of the Supreme Sect, as they believed it signaled an even closer relationship with Sword Venerable Fu Dao. The Supreme Sect acted swiftly, and the roster of the Heavenly List tournament quickly spread throughout the immortal cultivation world, distributed freely. Through the roster, they learned about the origins and formidable cultivation levels of the Heavenly List's great cultivators. Unconsciously, the Supreme Sect's image became even grander in their minds. To summon so many immortals for combat, the Supreme Sect was undoubtedly the premier sect in the immortal cultivation world. In the Taizong dynasty, Songzhou, in the palace garden, Li Xiandao, clad in a dragon robe, sat at a table, perusing the Heavenly List and softly praised. The Supreme Sect is ruthless with this move. With this roster, the world will believe the Supreme Sect has the power to summon immortals. Sitting across from him was a woman, Jiang Qiong. Behind Jiang Qiong stood 2 figures, 2 ghost cultivators from the 9 Nether 13 Evil, while behind Li Xiandao stood 2 great cultivators, one of whom was Yi Luyan, who had once cultivated in Tianya Valley. Jiang Qiong chuckled. "Isn't your majesty the one who truly benefits? Prince Li Ya's name is renowned worldwide now. Who doesn't know he is your son?" Speaking of Li Ya, her feelings were complex. She and the ghost mother of Ephemera had wandered Divine Exotic City, nearly dying, only for a younger generation to obtain it. How could they not feel envious and dejected? The most important factor was when she served as the great elder of the Supreme Sect's outer sect, she learned about Guan's connections. The person Guan was closest to was Li Ya. This boy was truly fortunate to have such a master with great chi fortune. Moreover, with her around, Guan could live peacefully even without leaving the valley. Thinking of this, Jiang Qiong's lips curled up. Li Xiandao set the Heavenly List aside, looked at Jiang Qiong, and said, "I have thoroughly understood the strength of the Juhua sect. However, even if I unify the world, the Juhua sect would find it very difficult to overthrow the Supreme Sect's status." Jiang Qiong responded, "There's no need to overthrow, just standing firm is enough." She had no intention of contending with the Supreme Sect. The true owner of the Juhua sect was Sword Venerable Fu Dao. Why compete? Besides, Guan was still in the Supreme Sect. Li Xiandao nodded and said, "Tianwei can no longer pose a threat. If you can help us conquer the great Jiang dynasty, I will definitely support the Juhua sect during my reign and shape it into a picture of the righteous path." Li Xiandao still held the Juhua sect in high regard. The strength of this sect was quite extraordinary. Jiang Qiong nodded and then continued to voice the needs of the Juhua sect. Li Xiandao patiently listened. The autumn breeze blew, scattering leaves that rose from the garden and drifted into the distance. Time flew by. A leaf fell, descending into Guan's hand. Another autumn had come. Guan stood by the wooden railing, enjoying the scenery of Medicine Valley. 2 years had passed since the end of the Heavenly List tournament, and Yan Qitian had yet to return, causing Guan to wonder. Yang Jian suddenly approached, holding a long weapon, a 3-pointed 2-edged blade modeled after Yang Jian's weapon in investiture of the gods. Over 2 years, his aura had grown stronger. Even when hiding his cultivation, he appeared formidable and not to be trifled with. "Master, a cultivator named Zhou Tongyu has come to the valley entrance, claiming to be your old acquaintance," Yang Jian said, glancing towards the distance. Zhou Tongyu was watching 2 servant disciples play Go. His curiosity piqued. Guan turned and looked at Zhou Tongyu, reflecting. He had killed Zhou Yu. How could he feel indifferent meeting Zhou Tongyu again? Luckily, Zhou Tongyu was unaware of this matter. He stepped towards Zhou Tongyu, with Yang Jian following closely behind. Recalling their first encounter decades ago, Zhou Tongyu had visited the Supreme Sect, sweeping through all disciples under 100 years old. Noticing Guan's disciple Yi Yin practicing spear techniques, he offered guidance, injuring Yi Yin severely. Guan had to step in. They didn't know each other until they fought. Later, Guan wrote Supreme Immortal Venerable, basing the secondary male character on Zhou Tongyu. He didn't expect Zhou Tongyu to remember him after so many years. Soon Guan reached Zhou Tongyu, smiled and said, "Taoist friend Zhou, long time no see." Zhou Tongyu turned to look at him, smiling. As arrogant as ever, Zhou Tongji's unparalleled pride couldn't be hidden. "Coming to the Supreme Sect. How could I not visit you? Your Medicine Valley's scale truly impresses me." "Remarkable," Zhou Tongyu laughed. The two began exchanging pleasantries. Zhou Tongyu came as a representative of the Jueshan sect for an exchange. He wasn't alone. A group of talented disciples accompanied him, though he acted independently. The reason he thought of Guan was due to an encounter with Guan's disciple Yi Yin years ago. Your disciple's cultivation level may not be high, but his comprehension of spear techniques is remarkable. He has already grasped spear intent. Zhou Tongyu praised Yi Yin. Yang Jian was curious. Was Yi Yin his senior brother? As he listened, he realized Yi Yin was merely a servant disciple from the valley, and had not received genuine guidance from his master. He was a senior brother in name, but not the one his master always mentioned. The master was truly impressive, nurturing a genius with just a few tips. In the end, Zhou Tongji's gaze fixed on Guan, eyes burning. "It's been years. Shall we spar again? I will still suppress my cultivation to match yours, how about it?" Among his peers, Zhou Tongyu had only lost to two people, LV Xian and Guan, the latter due to suppressed cultivation. Guan feigned hesitation. "Suppressed cultivation? Then why not let me fight on behalf of my master?" Yang Jian suddenly spoke up. Zhou Tongyu frowned, looking at Yang Jian. Just as he was about to refuse, his heart inexplicably trembled meeting Yang Jian's gaze. For some reason, he thought of LV Xian, that peerless genius of the past. "Well, let's see your power then, and whether you can match your master," Zhou Tongyu laughed, his eyes turning aggressive. The two disciples playing Go looked up in anticipation. Guan said, "Let's find an empty place." He patted the heads of the two disciples, refocusing their attention on the game. Zhou Tongyu and Yang Jian followed Guan walking along. Zhou Tongyu inquired about Yang Jian like an elder. Knowing Yang Jian was selected as a servant disciple, he felt relieved. He truly feared this one was a genius Guan recruited from a noble family. Ordinary servant disciples couldn't be geniuses, as the spirit root testing in great sects was reliable. 30 minutes later, outside Medicine Valley in a forest, Zhou Tongyu clutched his chest, his face full of shock, staring at Yang Jian, who remained in a kicking stance as if looking at a monster. "Are you really in the energy cultivation realm?" Zhou Tongyu couldn't help but ask. Yang Jian retracted his leg and said, "We both didn't use spiritual power, so what realm doesn't matter, does it?" Zhou Tongyu nearly spat blood at his words. He felt his chest bones were about to break. How could this guy's chi be so strong? Zhou Tongyu himself was a physical cultivator, and had even cultivated the evil-suppressing golden body. Chapter 245. Heaven and Earth Flying Immortal. Is it very powerful? Again. Zhou Tongyu gritted his teeth. He couldn't believe it. He couldn't be defeated by a mere servant disciple. It was said that the Supreme Sect's chi fortune had been soaring in recent years. He didn't believe chi fortune could defy the heavens to such an extent that even a randomly picked servant disciple could defeat him. What a joke. He was the #1 genius of the Zhou family. Yang Jian waved at him, and this gesture made him even angrier. The two quickly tangled again. Guan could see that Zhou Tongji's physique was special, but unfortunately, he met Yang Jian. Yang Jian's physique was comparable to an ancient treasure body. According to the immortal-seeking Taoist, as long as an ancient treasure body grew smoothly, it would undoubtedly become an immortal king of an era. No matter how strong Zhou Tongji's aptitude was, It was still below the immortal path. 200 years ago, there were no legends of the Mahayana realm on this continent, and even the mystic heart realm was known to only a few cultivators. Zhou Tongji's evil-suppressing golden body, compared to Yang Jian's physique, was as different as heaven and earth and posed no threat. Their bodies clashed, fists and kicks met, and their attacks were fierce and as fast as a gale. The blood prison great saint was attracted over. He stood at the edge of the forest and slowly approached. In the end, Zhou Tongyu, in his desperation, accidentally used spiritual power, forcing Yang Jian back. Yang Jian steadied himself, shook his right hand, and frowned. Facing his gaze, Zhou Tongji's face turned red instantly, and he said, "I admit defeat." Upon hearing this, Yang Jian's frown immediately relaxed. This was his first sparring match since following Guan in immortal cultivation. He cared deeply about the outcome. If he lost, wouldn't he be letting his master down? Guan laughed and said, "This kid has brute strength. How can a cultivator rely solely on qi?" It was an advantage for him. Winning or losing doesn't matter. Jianer quickly thanked the senior for his guidance. Yang Jian quickly cupped his hands in salute, sincerely expressing his thanks. The more sincere he was, the worse Zhou Tongji's expression became. Zhou Tongyu noticed a sneaky demon bull wandering in the distance and couldn't help but ask, "Is that bull yours?" Guan thought, "You don't want to spar with the bull, do you?" "Yes, how about it? What do you think of its appearance?" Guan asked with a proud tone, intending to skip over the sparring incident and save Zhou Tongyu some face. Zhou Tongyu pouted and said, "It looks decent, but its shape is a bit awkward." In the distance, the blood prison great saint widened his eyes. Just as he was about to curse, he was stopped by Gu An's glare and had to give up. Then, Guan invited Zhou Tongyu to enter the valley for a chat, but he refused, saying he had other matters and had to leave after the spar. Guan didn't insist, watching him leave. Yang Jian scratched his head and asked, "Master, did I offend him?" Guan looked at Zhou Tongji's back and said, "It's all right. Letting him know early that there's always someone better is not a bad thing." Guan still had a good impression of Zhou Tongyu. This guy's actions may be harsh, but his ability to guide those casual cultivators shows a kind heart. The conflict with the Zhou family was hidden and shouldn't affect his relationship with Zhou Tongyu. Zhou Tongji's visit to the Supreme Sect this time was likely an attempt by the Zhou family to mend their relationship with the sect. There was no deep hatred between them. Perhaps they could let things go in the future. "Master, do you think my battle just now had any problems?" Yang Jian humbly asked for advice. Guan didn't hold back and began to critique. The blood prison great saint approached, looking pitifully at Guan. Only after Guan patted his ox head did his mood improve. "He's just a mortal. What are you fussing about?" Gu An's words made the blood prison great saint smile widely. The Jueshan sect was a righteous path sect within the Taizong dynasty. During the previous demon disaster, they had also given their all, maintaining a good relationship with the Supreme Sect. This time, the genius disciples of the Jueshan sect came to spar with those of the Supreme Sect, causing quite a stir. Pan An's Supreme Immortal Venerable was still very famous within the Supreme Sect. It was no secret that Zhou Tongyu in the book was the same Zhou Tongyu from the Jueshan sect. So many people paid attention to his performance. Zhou Tongyu swept through the Supreme Sect's disciples, showcasing the brilliance of decades past until he met Wu Ju. Without suppressing their cultivation levels, relying on their skills alone, Zhou Tongyu couldn't defeat Wu Ju, solidifying Wu Ju's reputation as a genius. Wu Ju was a genius nurtured by the Supreme Sect after and how, with extremely fast cultivation speed. He had once been a golden list genius. Now, having defeated Zhou Tongyu, he dispelled any remaining doubts and made the Supreme Sect's disciples more hopeful for him. On the night of the full moon, LV Baitian and Guan were drinking together in a room. Wu Ju sees you as his only brother, Liya considers you the most important person, Zhang Buku regards you as his only elder, and Enhao's sister apprentice is under you. Ji Xiaoyu, from the Ji family, grew up with you. Even Gu Yu, the son of the Gu Zong, has a good relationship with you. You little brat, and you still say you don't have the ambition to be the next sect leader? LV Batian glared as he spoke. He truly admired Guan, who could always make friends with geniuses and form excellent relationships. Of course, he could understand why. Guan's genuine nature allowed him to form such good connections. Because of this, he admired Guan, as it wasn't easy to treat everyone genuinely. People tend to favor the promising. As for him, even if he often reminded himself to treat all disciples equally, he wouldn't give a second glance to an average disciple passing by. Guan laughed and said, "Heaven has been kind to me. I honestly don't want to be the sect leader. Nowadays, the supreme sect is full of geniuses. Do we still lack a leader? No matter how many geniuses, we can't choose recklessly. The sect leader must command respect. Can my current cultivation level command respect? Before I die, I'll transfer my cultivation to you. Then, you'll directly achieve the mystic heart realm. By the time you're dying, I'll have reincarnated 10 times already." "Oh, so you are retreating to advance, wanting me to transfer my cultivation to you sooner?" The two began to banter, and Guan wasn't interested in his cultivation. "Would I, a carefree primordial immortal, need your unification realm cultivation level? Just one breath of spiritual energy is stronger than all your life's cultivation." That night, after LV Batian left, Guan quietly departed as well. Yan Qitian had finally arrived. Underneath the night sky, Yan Qitian rode a cloud, gliding past the full moon, looking like an immortal. He was pondering how to face Sword Venerable Fudao. Though he was working for him, the thought of facing the Sword Venerable brought him immense pressure. At that moment, a hand suddenly pressed on Yan Qitian's shoulder, causing his heart to stop. With a roar, the cloud beneath his feet dispersed, and he fell into the forest below. When his feet touched the ground, his heart was in his throat. His mana was surprisingly restrained, leaving him unable to move. What terrifying suppression! For the first time, he felt such pressure, and fear began to grow in his heart. Fortunately, the hand on his shoulder released him, and he quickly turned to see Sword Venerable Fudao, immediately bowing in respect. "Senior, wasn't that a bit too?" Yan Qitian couldn't help but say, trying to calm himself. He suddenly recalled a recent book circulating in the Star Sea congregations about Sword Venerable Fudao. It mentioned that the Sword Venerable would press on someone's shoulder before killing them. He thought it was just Xian Tianyi's whimsicality, but it turned out to be true. Wait, could Sword Venerable Fudao be planning to kill him? Dispose of him after use? Yan Qitian's expression changed drastically as he trembled, completely losing the demeanor of a loose immortal and second rank on the heavenly list. As the saying goes, the higher you stand, the more you fear. Being suppressed so easily by Sword Venerable Fudao, he shuddered at the thought of Fudao's unimaginable cultivation level. How could he not be terrified? Guan spoke. "Where is it?" Yan Qitian hurriedly took out a scroll from his storage ring, offering it with both hands, nervously replying, "This is collected through the power of my family and master. Though not entirely clear, it should give a general understanding of the 7-star spirit realm's strength." Guan made a gesture, and the scroll entered his hand. His divine sense penetrated it, dispelling all the restrictions within. Yan Qitian nervously stood aside, fearing that Sword Venerable Fudao might suddenly decide to kill him. He didn't dare to flee, as it would be useless. It was better to try to make a good impression. After a while, Guan looked at him and said, "You did well. Our transaction hasn't been leaked, right?" Yan Qitian quickly replied, "Only my master knows. I mentioned a mysterious senior with a grudge against the 7-star spirit realm wanting information. My master didn't press further. Except for me, no one knows it's you." Guan nodded. Yan Qitian added, "Senior, dealing with the 7-star spirit realm can't be done rashly. If you are willing, why not join forces with our Star Sea congregations? From the information I've gathered, the cave master of 1-star cave is a heaven and earth flying immortal who achieved it 50,000 years ago. Even our sect hierarch isn't confident in defeating him. Heaven and earth flying immortal, are they strong?" Guan's question left Yan Qitian speechless. "Are they strong?" Yan Qitian opened his mouth, suddenly realizing something. Could it be that the other party wasn't unaware of the heaven and earth flying immortal realm, but simply didn't fear any heaven and earth flying immortal? His gaze changed instantly. Looking at Guan, he felt an urge to kneel on the spot. You did well. Tonight's conversation must not be mentioned to anyone. If you dare to speak of it, no matter where you hide, I will find you, and no one can stop me. Guan suddenly spoke, scaring Yan Qitian, who immediately bent over and promised. After he finished speaking, Guan stepped up to him and placed 2 fingers on his forehead, making him stiffen and his eyes go vacant. Under the moonlit night, in a courtyard, Ji Xiaoyu was meditating in a pavilion, continuously casting spells, and cultivating some sort of cultivation technique. A figure walked in from the yard, a middle-aged man in a large robe with a stern countenance. He stopped before the pavilion, gazing at Ji Xiaoyu and sighing, Xiaoyu, have you still not made up your mind? Ji Xiaoyu did not respond. The primordial Taoist talisman truly is extraordinary, but our Ji family can't protect it. Moreover, now that the Ji family has allied with the 7-star spirit realm, we can only choose to trust them, the middle-aged man said earnestly. Ji Xiaoyu opened her eyes and looked at him calmly, her gaze making him feel uneasy. Chapter 246 Heavenly Eye Prophecy. Ji Qianquan felt uneasy under Ji Xiaoyu's gaze. Ever since a certain point he began to feel like he couldn't see through his own daughter. Despite his higher cultivation level, he always felt that his daughter was dangerous. He even suspected that she had been possessed, but after examining her, there were no signs of possession. Ji Xiaoyu slowly spoke. Father, do you know the origin of the primordial Taoist talisman? Ji Qianquan frowned and said, the primordial Taoist talisman is a legacy left by ancient immortals. They choose their master through reincarnation. Those who possess the primordial Taoist talisman have extraordinary talent. With every major breakthrough, they will receive a legacy. Xiaoyu, it was I who introduced you to the primordial Taoist talisman back then. I naturally understand its importance. However, the primordial Taoist talisman is not unique in this world. The development of the Ji family has already hit a bottleneck. We need a force like the 7-star spirit realm to open a path overseas. Sacrificing for the family will not treat you unfairly. Ji Xiaoyu stood up and looked at Ji Qianquan from within the pavilion. The moonlit night was like water, and the cold wind was bleak. Ji Qianquan felt irritated by Ji Xiaoyu's gaze. Just as he was about to speak, he heard Ji Xiaoyu say, the primordial Taoist talisman in my body gave me a heavenly eye. Do you know what my heavenly eye sees? Looking at Ji Xiaoyu's extremely cold face, Ji Qianquan felt inexplicably uneasy. He pressed on. What did you see? Ji Xiaoyu stepped forward, circled around the stone table, and walked outside the pavilion. As she moved closer to Ji Qianquan, her momentum surged with each step. Her expression was as cold as an immortal in the skies, and her eyes were fixed on Ji Qianquan. I saw the 7-star spirit realm shatter, with countless corpses lying around, blood flowing like a river. I saw the Ji family reaching its end, with the Qilin wailing in sorrow. I saw you, father. Your head separated from your body, dying with unfulfilled wishes. Ji Xiaoyu's voice was not loud, nor did her tone drop, but every word shook Ji Qianquan to his core. The primordial Taoist talisman, a result of ancient immortals' cultivation, contained an unknown power. The Ji family was also unaware of the power held by Ji Xiaoyu's primordial Taoist talisman. Ji Xiaoyu stopped on the steps and looked at Ji Qianquan. If the Ji family only wanted me to offer the primordial Taoist talisman, I might not refuse. But you all want me dead. How do you expect me to agree? Ji Qianquan remained silent. He wanted to say something, but looking into Ji Xiaoyu's eyes, he felt that any words would be futile. No matter how you ramble, this matter is settled. You do not have much time left. Ji Qianquan left, flicking his sleeves. Watching his back, Ji Xiaoyu did not get angry. Instead, a look of disdain appeared on her face. Dawn. Yan Qitian opened his eyes and found himself still in the woods. The figure of sword Venerable Fu Dao was nowhere to be seen. He recalled the inherited memories in his mind, his expression complex. Breaking path divine light. He hadn't expected Sword Venerable Fudao to bestow an inheritance of divine skills upon him. Although he had previously stated he needed no reward, for Sword Venerable Fudao to do this demonstrated a conduct that he greatly respected. At the same time, he understood that if he publicized this matter, Sword Venerable Fudao would not let him off lightly. Sword Venerable Fudao was a cultivator, who clearly distinguished between gratitude and grievances, always keeping his promises. He sensed that the breaking path divine light was highly unusual. It was undoubtedly a rare and great opportunity. After much contemplation, he decided to visit the Supreme Sect. After all, Sword Venerable Fudao was in seclusion within the Supreme Sect. Building a good relationship with the Supreme Sect was also a way to show his respect to Sword Venerable Fudao. Moreover, he felt this might be an opportunity for him. Perhaps, with the help of the Supreme Sect, his path of immortal cultivation could proceed more smoothly. With that thought, he flew toward the Supreme Sect. On the other side, in the Third Medicine Valley, Guan was leading the disciples in exercises. The sight of over 900 disciples practicing together was quite impressive. Even Yang Jian was practicing earnestly. The autumn air was crisp, and the spiritual energy was abundant. Guan was in a great mood, a smile beaming on his face. Seeing his sunny disposition, the disciples' spirits also lifted. After the exercises, Guan didn't leave but instead dragged Xiaochuan to play chess. The other disciples wanted to watch, but he refused. Once seated, Xiaochuan eagerly said, "Senior brother, I won't go easy on you. Recently, I've had 17 consecutive wins in chess." He arranged the black and white pieces on the board and made the first move. Guan followed with a move of his own and asked with a smile, "How is your practice going recently? Have you been taking the elixirs I gave you on time?" Xiaochuan was only 3 years younger than him, and was nearing his lifespan limit. Guan planned to help him release his cultivation level in the next 2 years. Xiaochuan, unlike Li Ya or Zhenqin, who ventured into the immortal cultivation world, had little ambition and only helped Guan manage medicinal herbs. Yet in Guan's heart, he held considerable significance. In this lifetime, the one who had accompanied him the longest was Xiaochuan. Their relationship had long since become like family. Xiaochuan casually replied, "It's all right, I've been taking all the elixirs." His focus was on winning the chess game to impress his senior brother. Each time he moved, Guan would make his move quickly, initially not paying much attention. But as time went on, Guan's speed in playing brought him immense pressure. What made it worse was that Guan kept expressing concern for him, forcing him to respond, which left him increasingly agitated and frustrated. Of course, Guan noticed Xiaochuan's frustration. It was intentional on his part. Watching Xiaochuan become frazzled, Guan found it highly amusing. Suddenly, Guan asked, "Xiaochuan, would you like to leave the mountain to marry and have children?" Startled by this, Xiaochuan immediately looked up in panic. "Senior brother, do you want to get rid of me?" Guan rolled his eyes at him and said, "Experiencing various pleasures in life is a must. I'm just suggesting you marry and have children. If you want to come back later, you're welcome anytime. Of course, if you don't like women, that's fine too." Xiaochuan was already 138 years old, and had never experienced romantic relationships before. As his senior brother, Guan felt it was his duty to help him. Although Guan himself had not experienced romantic relationships in this lifetime, he had tasted it in his previous one, so it wasn't intriguing for him. But for Xiaochuan it was different. Xiaochuan didn't even read Green Hero Travelogue, so Guan was somewhat worried about him. Xiaochuan's face turned crimson. "Isn't this inappropriate?" "What's inappropriate about it? When the time comes, I'll give you money. You can buy a house deed when you leave the mountain, and matchmakers will naturally come knocking. Experiencing a couple of decades in a normal life might not be a bad thing," Guan said softly, placing another chess piece. This move made Xiaochuan's face turn green. Shameless. Playing chess was just playing chess. What was with these underhanded tactics? Xiaochuan's thoughts were disrupted, but he was moved by Guan's words. In fact, Guan had a deeper consideration for suggesting he leave the mountain, which was to see if experiencing worldly life could lead Xiaochuan to path enlightenment. Path enlightenment was very mysterious. Even a carefree primordial immortal couldn't force someone to achieve it at will. The reason path enlightenment could alter one's lifespan was because it gained the essence of heaven and earth. Human life was inherently determined by heavenly destiny. Thus, with Gu An's relentless persuasion, Xiaochuan was defeated utterly in chess, ending in frustration. Guan stood up and said with a smile, "Think it over carefully. Whenever you make up your mind, come to me. Don't worry, we will always be brothers. As long as I'm here, I'll protect you for life." Hearing these words, Xiaochuan's spirits lifted. He turned to look, and Guan had already walked away. For some reason he felt that his senior brother's arrangement was like preparing for his own impending end. It seemed his senior brother still cared about him a lot. A smile appeared on Xiaochuan's face. Guan also smiled, secretly thinking, "This little one still wants to beat me? Come back after practicing for another 800 years. That day, Yin Qitian visited the Supreme Sect, causing a stir among its top leaders. LV Beitian personally received him, and they had extensive discussions. 3 days later, Yin Qitian left. The Supreme Sect announced that Yin Qitian, second on the heavenly rankings, had become a guest elder of the Supreme Sect. This news excited everyone in the Supreme Sect. It said that Yin Qitian left behind many cultivation techniques and spells, promising that should the Supreme Sect face difficulties, they could summon him with a magic artifact. To show their gratitude, the Supreme Sect began to publicize Yin Qitian's deeds, aiming to make him the top cultivator of the Supreme Sect. Yin Qitian's involvement shook the immortal cultivation world, putting pressure on various sects and congregations to engage in diplomacy with the Supreme Sect. However, the Zhangtian sect remained silent with low morale. Autumn passed into winter, the snow blanketing everything. Mystic Valley. Guan stood by the window, appreciating the snowy view. His divine sense enveloped the continent. Dealing with the Seven Stars spirit realm couldn't be done forcefully, mainly because the realm was too vast. With 5 other caves overseas, he wanted to capture them all, but it was challenging. It was easy to alert other overseas factions or great cultivators. So he planned to first eliminate the 6 Stars Cave and 7 Stars Cave on the continent. Guan could detect their minor heaven and earth, waiting for a disturbance in the 7 Stars spirit realm before making his move. Since the appearance of Divine Exotic City, many oceanic cultivators had been traveling on the continent, including the Star Sea congregations, frequently clashing with the 7 Stars spirit realm. Guan intended to strike the 7 Stars spirit realm during a major upheaval caused by the Star Sea congregations, eradicating their key cultivators, ending the realm's presence on the continent. By then, the Star Sea congregations would likely advance north, pressuring the 7 Stars spirit realm to focus away from the continent. Today, Guan suddenly sensed a peculiar power brewing in the 7 Stars spirit realm, piquing his curiosity. He saw the essence of that power, further heightening his anticipation for the upcoming developments. Indeed, this world is full of hidden talents, so many secret forces, Guan thought to himself as he turned and sat back at his desk, picking up the Supreme Secret records. Reading many books eventually reveals what is classic. Classics are those that never grow tiresome. He turned page after page, like witnessing the rings of a tree. 3 years quickly passed by. Gu An's lifespan once again surpassed tens of millions of years. On this day, he closed the Supreme Secret records, stored it in his storage bag, then stood up and walked out of the attic. The summer sun was scorching, insects incessantly buzzing, the sunlight shining on Guan, reminding him of the scene when he first entered Mystic Valley at 15. He fixed his gaze, seeing Lu Jiujia instructing newly arrived servant disciples. In Gu An's eyes, Lu Jiujia's back gradually merged with Zhang Chunkius. 100 years had passed, and though things had changed, some marks remained. Guan smiled and began contemplating which magic artifact to use in the upcoming war. Simply crushing with mana seemed too dull. Chapter 247. Reincarnation does not permit you either thinking it over. Guan decided to use the Heavenly Resident Sword. The heavenly residence sword was a divine sword gifted to him by Liya, one of the 3 emperor swords of the Taizong dynasty. Although the emperor sword was not very useful to him now, the elegant form of the heavenly residence sword made it worth using. Guan also thought of Lu Lingjun, who wielded 2 swords in battle, and felt that he could try using a 2-handed sword as well. He had no pressure dealing with the 6 stars cave and 7 stars cave of the 7-star spirit realm. Guan went downstairs and made his way to Lu Jujia, who quickly saluted him and introduced 2 new disciples. The 2 servant disciples were very nervous in front of Guan, not like Liya and Minglang, who were impatient with Cheng Xiandan and Zhang Chuanqiu back in the day. The current status of the supreme sect in the Taizong dynasty was far beyond what it was 100 years ago, now being the top sect in the continent's immortal cultivation world, second only to the legendary Holy Land. Guan did not adhere strictly to the rules, but instead gently encouraged the 2 new disciples, leaving them pleasantly surprised. After he left, the 2 disciples were filled with anticipation for their upcoming life in the Mystic Valley. Guan did not head to the 3rd Medicine Valley, but walked towards the mountains and forests outside the valley. He appreciated the scenery along the way, and realized it had been many years since he last experienced the surroundings of the Mystic Valley on foot. Back then, he raced around the mountains with Xiaochuan, and life was carefree. To feel such nostalgia after just over 100 years, imagine what it will be like in 10,000 years. Guan suddenly thought, then adjusted his emotions, preparing to invade the 7-star spirit realm. Today, the 7-star spirit realm was about to undergo a significant change, presenting the perfect opportunity for him. Sunlight poured into the courtyard where Ji Qianquan and numerous members of the Ji family stood, chatting and laughing. A number of cultivators floated in the distant sky, each like an immortal, showcasing their unique styles. This Ji mansion, located atop a solitary mountain, covered an area of over 10 miles. Thick fog swirled below the mountain, resembling a vast ocean, with peaks emerging from the sea of clouds, akin to immortal Taoist practice grounds. The sea of clouds stretched endlessly, as if this place truly was above the 9 heavens, with the sun directly overhead. Ji Hantian leaned against the courtyard door with his arms crossed in front of his chest and eyes closed. Judging by his furrowed brows, his mood was not good. Ji Qianquan came to Ji Hantian's side smiling. "Grandpa, the auspicious hour is near." Chapter 250 Arrogant Sword Venerable, do you still have reinforcements? The divine light of the 7 stars mirror was so brilliant, illuminating the expressions of all the disciples of the 7 stars spirit realm on the square. At this moment, the disciples of the 7 stars spirit realm also realized that something was wrong. The high and mighty heaven and earth flying immortals seemed to be preparing to abandon them. For a while, cries, pleas for mercy, sobs, and curses kept ringing out. But Guan, who was being stared at by the 7 heaven and earth flying immortals, was looking at the 2 treasure swords in his hand. The realm master of heavenly meaning looked down at Guan and asked, "Do you have anything else to say?" Sword Venerable Fudeo's origins were mysterious, and he could even slay heaven and earth flying immortals, so the realm master couldn't help but feel some dread. He feared that there might be even more terrifying beings standing behind Sword Venerable Fudao, so he didn't act immediately. If he had no backing, he would not let Sword Venerable Fudao go today. Guan raised his head, looked up at the 6 heaven and earth flying immortals in the sky, and asked, "Are your people all here, or do you still have reinforcements?" As soon as these words were spoken, the faces of the 7 heaven and earth flying immortals all changed dramatically. Arrogant. They had lived for hundreds of thousands of years, and had never seen such an arrogant person. With the immortal path's supreme treasure overhead and 7 heaven and earth flying immortals working together, could he dare to be so arrogant? The realm master of heavenly meaning thought of many possibilities in an instant. He even thought that Sword Venerable Fudao might be at a higher realm than the heaven and earth flying immortals, but then he dismissed the idea, thinking how could such an ethereal existence be hiding in a small corner of this continent? Shouldn't he go to outer heaven to seek the opportunity for the great Tao? Feeling the power of the 7 stars mirror, the realm master of heavenly meaning's eyes flashed with fierceness. Even if someone surpassed the heaven and earth flying immortal realm, and killed so many great cultivators of the 7-star spirit realm, this matter could not be let go. He immediately raised his hand. The 7 stars mirror, as high as 10,000 feet, trembled violently, bursting out with even more terrifying pressure. The voices of all the disciples of the 7-star spirit realm on the square came to an abrupt end, and they desperately felt their skin ulcerate and their flesh dissolve. At this moment, a vast power enveloped them, removing the torture they were enduring. They couldn't help but widen their eyes, looking subconsciously for the source of this power, and their gaze fell on Guan. Have you recognized it now? If I hadn't detected something wrong and used my divine skills to switch my main soul and avatar, I would have died too. Even so, the fall of my avatar brought me enormous backlash, and I will need to recover for the next 10,000 years. Thinking about Sword Venerable Fudao's figure, his body couldn't help but tremble. He then looked at the woman in the purple dress and said, "Second Cave Master, the 7 stars spirit realm is finished. The 7 heaven and earth flying immortals are dead, leaving only you and me. With the 7 stars mirror in Sword Venerable Fudao's hands, we are powerless to resist the Star Sea congregations. We need to make plans early." The woman in the purple dress was the 2nd cave master of the 7 stars spirit realm. After listening to the 1,000-faced divine lord, she fell into silence. Recently, the 7 stars spirit realm had been repeatedly suppressed by the Star Sea congregations. She had considered the possibility of their demise, but didn't expect it to come so quickly. In just one day, 7 heaven and earth flying immortals had fallen. Heaven and earth flying immortals were the foundation of the 7 stars spirit realm. Plans? What plans can we have? Moreover, the gate to the divine exotic realm has already opened. Once the catastrophe descends, entangled by karma, escaping to outer heaven would be useless. The 2nd cave master said, her gaze eerie, as if thinking about something. The 1,000-faced divine lord used his power to suppress his injuries and said, "I don't care. I must leave the 7-star spirit realm. I have cultivated for tens of thousands of years, and don't want my path to end abruptly. If there is something I can do to help in the future, feel free to ask. But I do not want to fight Sword Venerable Fudao again." He stood up, bowing to the 2nd cave master, then disappeared from the spot. In the dim great hall, only the 2nd cave master and the young ghost boy on her shoulder were left. The flickering candlelight made their shadows look like ferocious demons. You're tuning in to the Echoes of the Heart YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.